Hi, how are you? Okay. You know, I'll figure it out.
Okay, in January, it's a month where we have to have a meeting and then open our regular meeting. We have a little bit of kind of paperwork and things that we have to do for procedures. So this first meeting is the opening of the Board of Education Financial Corporation. So the first thing we have to do is we have to elect officers. So the first thing, I'm calling this to order, and then the first order of business is the election of officers. We have to have the approval to appoint Ann Meyer as president, Lisa Duckworth as vice president, and Brian Robin as secretary. Do I have a motion? Second? Okay, all in favor?
I
Okay. The second thing we have to do is we have to approve the minutes from the Special Finance Corporation meeting of March 8th, 2021. So I need a recommended motion as the approval of the minutes from the meeting of March 8th, 2021.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those, Lisa moved, Julie seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, all right. And now we can adjourn that meeting. Are we good? All right. Okay, you need a minute? Okay. You know what? The regular one, I know, I'm sorry. Thank you, Peggy. Okay, I would like to open our regular Board of Education meeting. At this time, would you all stand and please recite the pledge to the flag? Okay, so the first part of this meeting, we have some recognition. So I'm going to pass this on to you, Brian, and you can do the recognitions that we need to do.
So, welcome everyone, and it is January, and in addition to procedural kind of things that we do, we have the distinct privilege of recognizing School Board Recognition Month. And so I'm going to ask Kelly Booth to also come up here, and she's going to also present on our behalf. But before Kelly presents, I need to be really, really clear about how important these 5 people are to our district. They are selfless. They are caring. It is a group of people who have put kids at every single decision. They take way more arrows than they deserve, and they get way fewer thank yous than they deserve as well. I have not met a single group of people who collectively work together with differing views and often differing perspectives, but always arrive at a consensus around what's best for our students, with a really clear understanding that our student success and our student progress and our student measures are what's good for our community. And so while I don't think any of them would say we've always been perfect, I am proud not only to call him my boss, but also as a parent of kids, I couldn't be more thankful for the work that each and every one of you guys do. And so thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of all the faculty and staff in Fort Thomas. And I know Kelly's gonna have something too.
Thank you.
I echo a lot of the same sentiments that Mr. Robinson has brought to the table. On behalf of the association, I want to say the past 2 years have been fraught, and that is the understatement. of the century. The individuals at this table have been tasked to stand at the helm of our district in an unprecedented time and have been faced with decisions that school board members haven't had to consider since the influenza pandemic of 1918. That's literally like a century of time between the last time we've had leaders that have had to grapple with the kinds of decisions that our leaders have had. While navigating these challenging times, our board has maintained their commitment to helping our teachers and students reach for their dreams. And this is something that the community might not be aware of. Our teachers are certainly aware of it. Our seniors are certainly aware of it. Every year, our board donates their stipends to provide scholarships for our students and teachers. As a recipient of that teacher scholarship, I can tell you that it was an important part of accomplishing my goals as an educator. And I speak for all of those recipients when I bring that up. Without it, those goals would have taken me far longer to achieve, as well as many of my colleagues. And that is something that our teachers deeply, deeply appreciate. I can honestly say, having taught in another district, I can say that we are uniquely blessed in Fort Thomas to have a board that invests directly back into the teachers and students that they serve in such a way. I also have to say I appreciate our board, how much our board has demonstrated their willingness to engage with our teachers. I know that I've reached out to several of you on a couple of different occasions. And I will say, maybe there's not always been consensus, and we've had issues. That's okay. But what I really deeply appreciate is that any time that I've reached out, I've never been ignored. And while we may not necessarily agree on everything, I am grateful for your willingness to listen and hear that perspective from teachers. That goes a long way, and I can tell you that's not something that every district is blessed with. So regardless of whether you agree or disagree with the wide gamut of tough decisions that have had to be made in the past couple of years, I don't think anyone in this room can say that they envy the job that you all have taken on behalf of our community. And I just want to thank you on behalf of the association for your commitment to this community, our students, our teachers, our classified staff. And I also want to thank you for not jumping ship in the past 2 years and staying at the helm. That is a brave task, and it is very much appreciated. So I do have a small token from the association to thank you for your service. I need a stage. I did not look at that.
These guys embody service by very definition. They don't take a dime in anything that in fact, it costs you money to be on the Board of Education. And so we thank you, and we're going to give a token of our appreciation as well to you. And I do ask in here, out of respect to our group here, for a round of applause for our school board.
Thank you all for those kind words. I think if you all want to jump in here too. You know, I grew up in this district. I was a teacher. I came back willingly to do this. So there isn't a better place with better people, better children that I would ever want to work. So thank you very much, and thanks for recognizing us. You good? Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I don't know that I want to be anywhere else right now, even though it has been crazy the last couple of years. I knew 27 years ago when I brought my husband and I walked our daughter through the front door at Moyer for kindergarten, I knew this was somewhere I wanted to be a part of. So I got involved, and I have made many friends, and I appreciate all our administration, all my fellow board members. They've changed throughout the years, but with each one, it's more fun to get to know more people. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, the next is the Tradition of Excellence report. So are you going to
Yeah.
do that? Okay.
We've got a, obviously, there's some tense discussions here in our meeting tonight, but we are going to continue a little bit of joy here and recognize some excellence. And so we have a Tradition of Excellence Award that's given to those who demonstrate clear commitment to our mission and showing why we remain rich in tradition and focused on the future here. Any member of our community can recognize a community member, a student, a teacher, an administrator, a school board member. Anyone can be recognized through some procedures on our webpage. This month we have a couple. One, and I'm going to ask Dawn Labor to please come up. She's out there. Tell her to come in.
here to quit hiding.
And then while I get her, we do need for you to speak directly into the mic since we're going to hear, we can hear Lisa and Ann, but we aren't being able to hear you as well.
Okay.
Okay?
Upstairs?
Not the students, just me.
Just
Just
you.
You got to come up. So
It's like-
I introduced the Tradition of Excellence Award, and you've been nominated this month. So it's like Publishers Clearinghouse here.
It's like, this is your life, Dawn Labor.
So Dawn was nominated by Lauren Kilgore, and I'm going to read what she wrote. She is a parent. She said she is mama to James, 7th grade, and Kate, 2nd grade, and Aaron, kindergarten. Recently, we got to participate in Parents in PE with Mr. Heddenberg, who always makes it amazing for the parents. She says he's a true gem, by the way, and all the kids just love him. But I got to go into class, and knowing some of the kids wouldn't have grown up available to be there. Sure enough, Doc Labor was there to be sure all the kiddos felt included. As I chatted with her, she told me that this was the 4th class she had participated in. She said, listen, it wasn't easy. We were running and sweating, and she was there, over and over again, to be sure the kids felt included. I drop my babies off every day, and they know they have someone like her looking after them. She knows their names, she knows their neighbors. I drop them off, and who my kids may go home with. She knows which kid will feel sad a parent can't be there. She is the kind of leader I want my kids to model. My James adored Doc Labor, and he is thriving at the middle school. I know it's because of the leadership he had at Moyer. I watch my Kate get excited to walk into school each day. I hear Aaron say, Doc Labor, hi, to her each day. We're so thankful she's caring for our babies and so grateful for her hard work. And so, Ms. Labor, we recognize you with Tradition of Excellence Award.
Now, if we could bring my kids in and get the spotlight off of me, that'd be awesome.
We're getting really close.
Thank you.
We have another Tradition of Excellence Award. I ask Kelly Booth to come up, please. We are recognizing Kelly Booth for her work as the president of the Teacher Association and the efforts for her teachers through incredibly challenging times. Kelly has been an advocate for teachers in public ways, like here at board meetings, where sometimes the discussions haven't been so easy, highlighting the positive in the midst of often challenging discussions, but also in really private ways behind the scenes. Even though Kelly and I don't always agree with every recommendation she brings to the table, I'm always impressed by her solution-focused approach to tackling any issue. She's truly working to create a positive, engaged culture among our team. And even more, I think Kelly serves as a symbol, really, because this award should go to our teachers across the district. Throughout the time that we've experienced a significant number of challenges, our teachers have been absolutely amazing. They continue to do whatever we ask them to do. They continue to do a little bit more. They adjust, they adapt, and they do it without complaining. And Kelly represents this, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And you definitely deserve a Tradition of Excellence.
Thank you. Oh, also, board members, make sure you check your email. The gift is in your email, might be in the overflow.
Okay, okay. I'll stop right now. Okay. The next is the FTEF partnership. Okay, you want to?
Yeah, we have an amazing education foundation here in Fort Thomas, who we've talked about with regularity. There is no way that we could accomplish the things that we've been able to do over the 20 years of existence of the Fort Thomas Education Foundation. Anywhere from getting our middle school going to, as principal, working really directly when I was at the high school on a $40 million 10-year renovation to Johnson Elementary, and the list goes on and on. So we have the Education Foundation here today. They've been behind the scenes making sure a couple really important projects occur, and have asked to address the board.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Megan DeSola. I'm here with Kevin Duke and Dustin Hooker and Amy Schaefer. We're here representing Fort Thomas Education Foundation. As you all know, we were founded 20 years ago. At the time, the middle school was under construction, and because of the generosity of our community, we were able to fundraise and give our very first teacher grant, which is actually in the form of some books for the middle school library. So since then, we have been able to forge a partnership with the schools, and we've been able to give back nearly $1 million in teacher grants, and we've been able to support the needs of our schools as they've gone through renovation and construction of all the schools. So here we are, the last piece of the puzzle of the school is Johnson Elementary, and we are really excited to present the final check to finish off the project in the amount of $609,196.
Oh.
Anne had teased about Publishers Clearinghouse. I don't think you knew that
No.
that was actually going to happen. So Megan talked about the final piece of the puzzle, which we were super excited to celebrate this summer, the ribbon cutting. As the board knows, we are the last person to pay the bills of Johnson. So when that last bill comes, you guys have the cash. So as we close out our 20th anniversary year, and we've cut the ribbon on all 5 of our schools, we found ourselves thinking, what's next? What is the next thing that our district needs? And when you look at the campus of the high school and the middle school, you notice that there's not a lot of room for growth. So one of the projects that we've been working on for the better part of 5 years was to acquire the property adjacent to Highlands High School at 2504 Memorial Parkway. Starting last Monday, January 3rd, the foundation has moved their offices to that house. We gifted the property to the district. And so tonight we'd like to present a check for the purchase of that property, totaling $354,741.67. So.
Thank you.
You guys done? You guys finished?
We're finished.
Yeah.
I
I want to,
just- I
go
would
ahead,
like to
you
say-
go.
I'd like to say that, we are incredibly unique here to have a foundation that has contributed the monetary amounts that they have is really put us on the map nationally. People cannot believe the commitment that they've made to us. And you look around at our new schools that we built in the last 20 years, a lot of those really nice features that you see in our schools that you don't see in other schools are a result of the foundation's commitment. I've been here the entire time since the foundation started, and we've been extremely blessed to have individuals lead and participate in that organization that in transitions from one to another, that's just incredibly committed to the cause. And Amy Schaefer, for sure, I mean, she is passionate, driven, diligent, probably a few other words I probably shouldn't use, right?
Well, I just want to make sure that we appreciate the accolades, but it's really important to note that the dollars we raise come from our community. They're not donated by the members of the board. We have 25 volunteers who live and work in Fort Thomas and send our students to the schools. And whenever we call they answer, and I think it's just a really good example of how when we're all working together for the good of the students, we can really do magical things. So the community deserves the credit for sure.
Yeah, well, it doesn't happen without the commitment of the foundation, participation, obviously. But yes, it is a community-driven thing. But I just would personally like to thank the foundation for just participating in. I would have never believed we could build all these schools and the gym and everything in that short period of time. And obviously, it took a whole lot of bodies to get that done. But the foundation was a major part of that, and the contributors to the foundation. So thank you all for all of that.
Thank you.
And the teacher grants, too, I want to talk about that. I fondly call them the Dare to Dream. You know, you have teachers that come every day that say things like, I would love to, you know, go here or get someone to come in, or wouldn't it be cool if I had a vending machine for books or whatever. And so a lot of times in public schools, you come down, you put your head down, you're working, you're teaching the whole time. It's really cool that we have built that spirit of the Dare to Dream. And I think the teachers and the faculty will tell you that when new people come in here and they are in the teacher's, cafeteria or whatever saying, I would really love, and they're telling them, write a grant for that. That's an unusual thing. So I love that spirit, and I love that spirit too for our kids, the Dare to Dream kind of part of it. So thank you to the community for supporting our projects. So thank you. Okay, next I think is Dawn and the kids that are chirping outside. I love that. Okay. Thank you.
Don't leave me alone. Here we go. Just line up right there. You guys can go around. It's okay. Thank you. So Moyer's like Texas. We're big. So we go big here. So they're so excited. They couldn't stand it out there. And I'm really, really glad the spotlight's on them now. So I am Dawn Labor. I'm the principal at Moyer. And these are my kiddos. And they have worked so hard this year and last year to bring leadership to our school. And we put a huge emphasis on if it can be done, it should be done by kids. And so at the beginning of the year, we asked the kids to talk about what sort of things need to be done. What do we need at our school? And they said the things that they thought were important that were missing. And then we came up with ways to make those realities. So we have a birthday brigade now, which is a team of kids all the way from K to 5. It's not just our old ones. We have them here today. But they walk around and sing happy birthday during birthdays. We have a grounds crew who's in charge of checking and making sure there's no litter. We have habits at home, which are ways that we work on our 7 habits, and we get prizes and rewards for doing that. We have hallway leaders who greet the kids in the morning and take all those forgotten iPads and water bottles to the classrooms for us. We have a lost and found crew who looks for names and takes them back to the kids. And we have a roundup gang. And all of these are things that they had to apply for, say why they wanted them and why they'd be good at them, and they had to go through like an interview process to get them for every job we have. And so these kiddos applied, and I want to show you a real quick video. It's by Anna Reynolds. She's not here today, but she made all the videos to explain how to apply, and this is just her video. Thank you, Peggy.
Hey, 5th graders. Is your dream to be a Hollywood star or the magic behind it all? Then join the Roundup Gang. Hi, 5th graders. I'm here to talk to you guys today about the Roundup Gang. So you guys are like, well, the Roundup Gang, we already do the Roundup. So the Roundup Gang is soon going to be a gang of people. There are like 8 of them, and they run the Roundup by themselves. So no teachers know anything, it's just you. Sign up through the link in Schoology. Join quickly, only 8 spots.
So the Roundup gang actually leads our assemblies. Sometimes we can't have in-person assemblies because of reasons I'm sure you are aware, and sometimes we have them virtually, but regardless of how we have them, they are leading them. They have led them both ways. They've led them virtually, and they've led them in the actual auditorium. I believe Mr. Robinson saw the one where I got a pie in the face. That was a lot of fun.
Emily Johnny.
And my name is Olivia Griffith.
We are the hosts of the Roundup Crew.
In the Roundup, we share exciting news that is happening around our school.
We also introduce all the members of the Roundup throughout the show.
We both love our job because we enjoy public speaking.
And it is fun to interact with everyone in the Roundup.
We are thankful to be a part of this wonderful team.
Hello, I am Nora Baker, and this is
Raphael Wankipu.
and we are the Camera Squad.
We also control the camera.
I swipe through the pics for the Roundup.
I make sure everything works out in the roundup. We also love our job.
And we are glad that they picked us. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Hi, I'm Allie Piper.
And I'm Vivian Winker.
And we are the Habiteers. Every month, the school gets together for a roundup. We explain what habit the whole school is supposed to demonstrate for the month. For example, this month's habit is seek first to understand, then to be understood.
I love being one of the Habiteers because it helps the school be better leaders. I think we all have potential in being a better leader and person in and outside of school.
Hi, my name is Adrian Brown and I'm the fitness fanatic. I make games for post-confidence. Post-confidence are people that did a habit during school. They also get a letter to their house telling them they did a good job doing the habit at school. I love being the fitness fanatic because I get to play with kids and make games for them.
Hello everyone, I'm Brielle Stanford.
And I'm Omika Kulura.
And we are the ringleaders. We thought the ringleader job was perfect for us.
Because we both like celebrating things around the school. Sometimes I do the pledge and the birthdays.
And most of the time I introduce the class who won the gold pen and silver spoon award.
We both take turns doing our jobs.
And at the end, we do an awesome cheer.
With the whole school.
Hi, I'm Ava Pate. And I'm Taryn Ripley. We're the behind-the-scenes managers. We are in charge of helping with all of the scripts. We will sub for someone if they are absent. I like my job because I like to help support people. I like my job because I can help a lot of people finish what they're working on.
We also have Silas, who couldn't make it today. He's our comedian. He asked if I knew how to do the jerk. Anybody know what that is?
Uh-huh.
So I tried because that's what I do, and he said I look like a wounded bird.
Oh.
I did my very best. So do you guys have questions for my leaders? They did it all themselves and came up with what they wanted to say today.
I heard somebody mention a cheer.
Mhm.
Could I be so bold as to ask for us to cheer? Would you guys do that, or
Do you
make
remember
their
your
jobs
last year?
handle
They
it?
did. They make one up each time.
Oh, it's a different one each time? And you guys make it up? Okay, well, you can, the greatest.
We'll come up front.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm promised to participate.
Yeah, she was a cheerleader, so she might
Yeah, I
participate for you. Okay.
Can't do the jerk.
You can fix it.
M-O-Y-E-R, Moyer.
The Moyer chant with them? Show them. The be a leader. You want to do that for them? Go ahead.
Be a leader every day, that's the Moyer Mustang way. Put the Mustangs to the test, we will do our very best.
Hey.
Was there?
My heels on. If I look like a wounded bird without heels, imagine.
Well,
I-
speaking from someone who has a wounded arm, I would be afraid I'd hurt myself, so it's better. Go ahead.
Was there a habit of the month that I hear?
Yeah, it was, well, you guys tell me what it was.
What was the habit of the month?
Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Oh, that's a good one.
So we're working on listening before we speak.
Awesome.
Well, when you said the jerk, I was thinking of a Steve Martin movie, so
I know.
I'm even way out of that. So.
No, it's a dance. It's basically skipping backwards.
Yeah.
It's like the new phone books are here. But the fact that you guys, so you all are doing exactly what we would want our graduates to be able to do. You're looking at the needs of your school. You're thinking about the community that you serve, and you're doing it, right? So we recognized our school board members tonight, but you are our future school board members. You are our future teachers. You're our future leaders within our community. And it's exactly what you're doing is what we want our people to be doing. So I'm really proud of that work. I hope you invite me to another one of the future assemblies, but I do not want the pie.
Well, thank you. We have, do you have the shirts over there?
I told them I would take them and give them out tomorrow, since it's so crazy and crowded today.
That's perfect. So we have shirts.
And that gets them out of class a little longer, and that makes them happy.
I love that. Thank you for coming. I was telling Mrs. Labor, Doc Labor, I should say, I was in your building delivering something right before Christmas, and I was a high school teacher, so I told her, I said, I miss my calling. I mean, you know, you're right before Christmas and all the happiness, it was happy. I mean, there was a lady dressed up like a snowman. I mean, yeah, you know, who when I said it, they were like, she was an elf yesterday, you know, so I applaud you. It looks like a happy, joyful place. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
I won't leave with them. I said, yeah,
We'll take just a couple minutes before we do the next agenda item.
Okay. He said, are you going to fill up the room? We're not going to invite people from upstairs, are we? Thank you. Thanks, guys. Want to come in? Thank you. I know. Pretty cool.
To go with the big sisters. Yeah.
We have 20 people.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
We'll work. We're going to move the agenda.
Okay. It's fine.
We're going to give just a minute until, just kind of as a transition.
Rearrange people. Okay, are we finished here? I mean, do we have a limit? Are we gonna let them hang? What are we gonna do?
Should be about seats. Have we offered other people upstairs too? There are.
Okay. You want me to introduce you? You want to talk? That's fine. You can go. You can start. You want to? And then I can do this.
Okay, typically we have, this is our community forum section, and we do have a large number of people that are going to speak at the community forum. I want to say it's upwards of 25.
25.
Prior to do that, though, I'm going to recommend that we actually adjust our agenda a bit
Okay.
and put things in different order.
Okay.
My recommendation is going to be, I believe everyone is here for our Healthy at School discussion, and so my hope is, and this is up to the purview of the board if you want to change the order for that, but would be to do our community forum following our update.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You know, from the start of our pandemic, and this is something that all of us have suffered with for quite some time, way longer than we want it to be. And it's at a point where I think we're all done. we're all tired of the different asks that we have. And this week has been probably the hardest of my career in a lot of ways. And it's been one of joy when you take care of your family, and at the same time, sometimes that's pretty tough, coincidentally. Since the beginning, we have we've taken a process where we've gathered feedback from our community. We've gathered feedback from our stakeholders. We've worked in concert with the board, and our leadership team has been able to make recommendations to the board as to how we address going to school in really difficult times, ones that we haven't seen in our lifetime. The three criteria that we have from the start, and even preceding me, was around making sure that we maximize in-person learning. This has been a district that has been in the front of that discussion. At times where a lot of people were looking ways to stay back, we were looking for ways to be in person and to make sure that we were present, and that was a critical criteria. The second is considering that student experience. What is the student experience when they're here, and to what degree can we make sure that we give every person who deserves the experience that they're only going to get one time to the best degree possible. And the third criteria has been around including parental choice as it relates to understanding the impact these 2 years have had on their own kids' needs, and having the ability to make some decisions around how this has impacted them, as only a parent could. Throughout our different criteria, whether it be mandated, whether it be recommended, whether it be a guideline, we've had to prioritize any one of those three criteria based on what's going on around us. Our most recent recommendation has been around making sure we don't prioritize, that we consider and we provide emphasis for all three, and we consider them equally. But at the same time, we have to sometimes still shift. And so I'm going to ask Jamie to come up and give us sort of an update of where we are as a result of this week. I think most of the people in this room have been keeping up with some of that, but Jamie has definitely been living it.
Can I please request that anybody who speaks as close into the microphone as possible?
Are they still having trouble hearing me?
Okay.
Good evening. This evening, I'm going to start and share with you some trends that we are experiencing starting this previous Monday, January 3rd. And so what I'm going to do is take you back to our first day back, January 3rd, and then compare that to our previous year so that you can get a sense and a snapshot of the previous first week of school and then including the first day of the second week. So I've included data for today. So our current student attendance data reflected at the high school in the current school year, you can see on January 3rd, we range from 90.27% at Moyer, comparable to then the highest rate being at the middle school at 94.89%. As you travel across from left to right, you can recognize that there's some differences and some changes at each of the schools, but I do want to focus on where we are today. So looking at January the 10th, we can see that our lowest rate is at the high school at 87.69%, and our highest is at 94.22% at Moyer. We recognize that certain schools have better days than others, and it's reflected in the data that you can see up there. For the previous year, again, looking at where we were with our COVID situation, on the first week of school and the first day of our second week, we can see that some of our trends on the first day, our trends did fall between 97 and 98%. Then the first day of the second week falling to 95 to 97%, with pockets in there of almost perfect attendance. An example would be that of Moyer on Wednesday, January the 3rd of last year. And so recognizing we can see the comparison of, I want to flip back, current year data to our previous year. So our attendance right now is lower and falling each day. Also, we recognize, this is data for today, that our 41075, the data that we look at every morning to consider where we are and we track on our dashboard, currently today we are at 339.4 cases per 100,000 on a 7-day rolling average for, again, that zip code 41075. I was able to reach Stephanie Vogel at the health department today to help us understand, out of that number, where do our students fall? And so it's not necessarily going to be apples to apples, but I can share that she said the current rate for 19 and under for today was 377. So again, we are seeing that it's proportionate, and we are recognizing that it is still in the 300s for that. I don't know what the general population for students 19 or individuals 19 and younger are, to be able to calculate that to determine how many cases per day. But I can share with you where we are within our school district. And so this screen would show you new cases per day, not cumulative averages, not ones that still need to be considered because of our 5 or 10 days out, depending on what we were using. These would be brand new cases. And so we could see most all of last week, those were kids that weren't even in school for 1 day. So when we recognize the data for the 3rd through the 7th, those were cases of exposures for the community outside of our school, with a few exceptions. Today, I had to stop at 2 o'clock. And so I can tell you, I know there are 26 more positive cases that need to be on the dashboard today, but I have not had time to put them up. So I am going with data to show you from 2 o'clock on previous, that we, over the course of those 6 days, have 182 positive cases within our schools. 33 of them have been staff or faculty members. You're going to see that the dashboard doesn't reflect that because we've already pulled some of those cases off. Some of the earlier cases were cases that were rolling off of a quarantine or isolation. So currently today, it shows at this moment 139 with 120 quarantines, knowing that's going to change. Also, I would like to report to you our absence report, understanding that faculty share certified data, thinking of our teachers, our counselors, our administrators. Our staff members are our support staff, cafeteria, maintenance, instructional assistants, bus drivers. And so you can see early on, at the beginning of last week, we had 13 teachers, faculty members. 1 of those vacancies were unfilled. For staff, we had 6 out, 1 was unfilled. For the day, that gave us 19 absences. And so the trend continued forward, each day adding a couple, as you can look at the very bottom row, to get us to today. Today we had 31 teachers out. We had 8 unfilled positions, 8 classrooms that didn't have a teacher. We had 6 staff members, support staff, out, with 3 of those positions not filled as well, which gave us today 37. So that would be the current trend data that I have. I don't know if you want me to consider or add any other information about our current practices or not.
Can I ask you something? Will you be real clear about when those were unfilled, how that they were covered?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That does not mean, that's a great point.
Yes, yes.
That does not mean that our students were in classrooms without supervision
Yes.
and no direct instruction took place. Our principals and assistant principals have led the charge within each of the buildings to make sure that each period or each homeroom has been covered. And we have done that by our wonderful teachers that are on staff, that are present, that are willing to give up their planning period to come and support a staff member or a teacher who would be out at that time. So there has been a lot of shuffling and juggling to make sure that we had those filled, and a lot of plan times that have been taken to make that happen. Any questions about the data?
Not about, are you gonna cover the current rules around quarantining, things like that? Are you still going?
I can,
Kane?
yes. So I do have just one slide that talks about different protocols.
That's fine.
So if we recognize, I'll hit before I flip to this side, masking, sanitizing, temperature screenings, all of that we're continuing to do on a daily basis. We've had great emphasis with our administrators, our leadership teams, to make sure that we're re-emphasizing those practices, social distancing, as best as possible within all of our spaces. So that's been something that we talked about this past week as a non-negotiable. But you recognize that at the end of last week, we also did make a shift, pulling off of what we were doing as we recognized, let me step back. In December, I presented protocol that would have been different than what we started our January with, because we did have information and guidelines that were different and allowing positive cases to be out 5 days, returning on the 6th day. We had positive household exposures able to mask and come back for 10 days if they were vaccinated, and then an adjustment for the unvaccinated. But with our data, we recognized that we needed to pivot, especially talking to our nurses. One story I can share is that at the high school, at a given point in time, we had 46 positive students. Out of the 46 positive students, 44 of those students were vaccinated. And so we were having a significant priority to make sure that both our vaccinated and our unvaccinated were protected. Because we were noticing the spread is continuing to come off of vaccinated individuals as well when we're looking at positive cases. So we switched and reverted back to the beginning. When we consider, and you can look through our previous data on Healthy at School, in 2021, we had very similar data, where if you were a positive case, you were out for 10 days. You had to be fever-free on that 11th day to return. For household exposures, we did have this same or very similar approach back then, that once the patient recovered as a positive case and the household wasn't isolating, their day 1 started on the positive cases day 11. So we're reverting back to a longer at-home stay, which we don't like in the sense of having kids out of school, but we found it very important to make sure that we were maintaining the exposures and we were making sure that the spread was being contained. We also are seeing that our positive household exposures are reverting to positives. So I'm the person on the dashboard that changes a quarantine to a positive. I can tell you today, I changed at least 6 of them. So we're seeing that data. So this is where we are right now, as it was language that was emailed out over the weekend to our families, and we had to pivot and make a quick change with that. And we're hoping that this would be a temporary situation. It's not anything that we're considering long-term.
And I think there might be some questions about that. Is this CDC data? Is this local health board protocol, or is this the original Healthy at School? It's been a
This
long
is
time.
the original, our original Healthy at School that came from all 3. So Kentucky Department of Public Health, the CDC, and then our local health department, but it was from 2021.
Right.
So we are not going with anything currently that is published on any website right now. We felt like we had to change and make sure that we protected and lumped vaccinated and unvaccinated together. That would be the difference.
Got
If you take that component out, that's what we were doing in December.
Okay, thank you.
Other initial questions for Jamie? Okay. And so what I'd tell you this morning as we're preparing for this presentation, and we worked a tremendous amount this weekend to really dig in and take a look at all of the factors facing us. The one chart up there that with the teachers is actually the one that's had my attention the most. We have the 3 priorities. I completely support the 3 priorities. I think it's evidenced how important it is that we have choice throughout. What I'm telling you is the Board of Education, our in-person instruction's in danger. It is in danger, and it's fastly approaching. We're seeing multiple districts across the nation, really, but within Northern Kentucky and throughout the state that are going to NTI. I've not seen an issue divide a community in a similar way as masking in schools, which I think is an interesting observation and one that I'm concerned about. But what I can say to you is I'm hoping we can all be united around the idea of staying in person in schools all the time. That's the thing that I think we have to push for the most. But we're approaching 20% of our classes missing their teachers at the start of the day. We have teachers that are covering classes and then doing it without complaint. But they're scrambling. I was there in the morning, and they're scrambling around making sure that people are there to start the day off. We have to connect with absent students, and while it is a challenge right now, that's not the predominant challenge, but it will become over time. And we have some key staff that are about wiped out, and they've only been back a week. The nurses are amazing, but it's tough. I think our team is doing their best to serve their all. And so those 3 criteria that I said at the beginning have to guide our decisions. But I'm telling you, the first one is in danger, and I need to make some recommendations to you, and I need your feedback, because if we're going to stay in the same process, if we're going to stay in the same mode, then I'm going to make some recommendations. I hope you give some feedback, and our team can then respond over the next day or so to do it. And so what I'm telling you is I think we're close enough to being in danger of being able to stay open, and I feel the last thing we haven't tried really is considering a very temporary return to our first semester protocol. And a big part of that would be masking for a short period of time. But it does provide a couple possible benefits. I want to acknowledge from the start, when you look at this particular strain, when you look at this particular spike and bump and what we're facing, and as contagious as it is, the only reports that are having consistent messaging around actually being able to stop spread when people are together is if you use a K95 or an N95 mask. So there's definite some concern, and I acknowledge it from the start that cloth masks may have some definite limitations. And we're seeing that spread within schools seems to be more reflective of what's happening within your community than it necessarily does the policies within the school. Whether it's school districts that are shutting down right now, or there are districts that are on an optional policy that have significantly lower community rates than we do, and they're doing just as well as any other district. So I acknowledge that from the start. I acknowledge that this is going to be a strain on teachers in ways that maybe they don't predict or expect if we go with this recommendation. And again, I'm open to feedback here on this as we make some of these decisions. And I can't even assure you it's going to make a tremendous amount of difference. But what I can assure you is, if we're going to make a decision, if we have to get to a point where we have to make a decision to close schools, I, in good conscience, have to say that we did everything that people suggested. So I'm open to other suggestions besides that, or in addition to that as well, in an effort to keep schools back. And the last thing that I'll say, and then I'd like to hear more feedback from the board in terms of where our priorities are, is this has to be temporary. This has to be temporary, and it has to be isolated to our current spike if this is indeed the direction that we're going. Because I think our families deserve it, our kids deserve it, and I think their experience is very different based on their individual needs. So I want to stop there, and then I think it's important to get some feedback from our Board of Education.
Well, while I recognize our current situation is bleak, and I 100% support our in-person instruction, and recognize that that's in danger right now. And with the utmost of respect for you and the board, I can in good conscience support an additional mandate on masking. You know, we now have the experts saying on both sides of the fence that cloth masks do nothing to stop the transmission of Omicron. I do think the N95s would make a difference, but I see that as very unrealistic for our staff and students, at least all of them. I would say that if there's a significant concern personally that have your child wear an N95, or the teachers, whoever, should wear N95s. But there's got to be an end to this at some point. And, you know, we say, okay, 3 weeks. Okay, and 3 weeks from now, then what? I see the naming of these variants using the Greek alphabet as a reason. There's 22 other names now they can still use. I'm not an expert. I'll be the first one to admit that. I've done a lot of research. I've certainly done a lot of research lately. I just don't see where inhibiting the development of our kids socially and emotionally with these masks, continuing this process, is a good answer. If I thought it would work, I'd be 100% for it. I just don't believe it's going to make a difference. I think we may have to take some extreme measures moving forward, with or without masks. But I can't support it. This stage in the game, I'm not behind it. I'm sorry.
So, you know, from the very start, if you all have been following along, you'll know that it's about learning. That's why I came here. You know, keeping our focus on that and making sure that children learn. That's why at the beginning, to be real honest, we've been getting nasty grams for 2 years, okay? So 2 of my favorite ones were when we decided to go back to school, you will have blood on your hands, and I'm joining the solidarity of those who don't want to send their children to school. That's the kind of notes that we get, like that it was going to be the worst thing in the whole world. And we did this at a local level, talking, you know, it was before Brian, but we charged our local people and principals to, can we do this? What is the plan? Your children, people's children, were able to come to school because of children separated 6 feet. They were in, if you would have walked into our room and seen what the cafeteria ladies were doing to feed people in the gym at the high school. If you would walk into the middle school and kids were facing, I mean, they couldn't even talk to each other because they were so far away. We were washing things all the time. I mean, it was a superhuman effort, and it worked, and we did it. And we continued to do that. This year we came back and said, okay, let's look at this. What can we do? Can we have the experience different? And we have. We've had more group experience. We've been able to get kids closer and eat together in the cafeteria and move them. So it's as close as possible as we can get them. But I'm also aware that we have a third of our elementary that have never had school without mask, all right? I'm also aware that kids are only first graders 1 year. They're only 12th graders 1 year. I am aware of all of that. And so that worries me. That worries me. Now, that being said, I don't want to go to NTI. I don't. You know, I told, and the people that were here will know that when we had meetings, I said, these years are going to be asterisk years. Okay, so when the test scores go down, little asterisk because it's COVID years. I mean, that's good. None of you want asterisk kids. I mean, you don't want that for your own kid. Your kids are still going to college. They're still going to be engineers. They're still doing all the things that you plan for them. You're not in your homes going, oh, well, 2 years. Sorry, they can't do that. We all still have our expectations for our children. So here's where I am on this. I want kids in school. I want kids, the first priority is kid in school and sitting with their teachers. It's not a kid in school, you know, where people are running around trying to cover and do the best they can. And I do not want to go to NTI. Now, we can stay here and we can debate, do they work, do they not work? I don't know. I know one thing they do is, and it's very sad, but if you have a mask on, you, by nature, stay away from people. You know, so at the very least, you know, you're not, it's like sneezing into your arm and staying away from people. If we do this, it has to be temporary. It has to be temporary. And if we do this, we have to throw everything at it. I mean, we're still sanitizing, I know that. We are still separating children. I know that we've already changed some things as far as doing group together. Does it help with other things, like 10 days out of school or quarantining or anything like that? Does it help with that? Because that's the other problem with this. If the kids don't have masks on, then they're out for 10 days. So does it help with any of that? Give me more to hear.
So I do think it can help us have some consideration around the 10-day. The change in the quarantine and isolation rules came to us about 2 days before we started school. And we jumped straight to it because our interest is making sure our kids are in school. It was a CDC recommendation. We knew that it would be important in order to be able to staff our classrooms, and we needed students back into the classrooms as soon as possible. And we felt that that we could accomplish that. For reasons that Jamie talked about, the household exposures have from day one resulted in a high level of students becoming positive when they came back from day one. It's even more true now. This strain is acting very different than the others. It's significantly more contagious. It's infecting people who are vaccinated, and thankfully, it's not as dangerous to as many people. So that's the thankful part of this, based on at least the early reports that we have. So to answer your question, more and more guidance is coming out. We got a note on Thursday that said this doesn't really count for students. They didn't mean this for schools. And then there were some additional notes today that said it maybe applies to schools. So to answer your question, Ann, I think in an environment where we're not trying to track which students are supposed to have masks on and which ones aren't, it could open up some possibilities for us to do that. But the method we were in before was not sustainable, just because we were having to put kids on the stage. We had 60 kids on the stage one day at Johnson Elementary because we had to separate them based on that status. So, but I do think it could have some possibilities.
Okay.
I suppose I'm not really clear on how that would work.
Say that again.
I'm not clear on how cloth masks on every kid is going to benefit us in that scenario. I mean, I get the generalities of what you're saying, but can you be more specific?
Well, Ann was asking specifically around kids who were recovering, who had become positive, or students who were in household exposure quarantine situation. And so if everyone is masked, then you know everybody has to have a mask. Whereas before, it was very difficult to make sure you knew which kids had to have a mask on,
Okay,
which
so
ones
what you're
didn't
saying
have
is
a mask
the tracking of kids
on. Exceptionally
is a logistical
burdensome.
nightmare for our staff.
Yes,
When someone would be positive or quarantining or coming out of it or whatever.
correct.
So it's the logistics of it. It's nothing to do with the actual infection itself. It's the logistics of it.
Well, the CDC data that I saw, and I'm not an expert on this piece, but they report upwards of 30% of people on day 6 still are contagious. And so that made the expectation to make sure that people were masked when they return that much more important.
Right. Okay. I'm following you. It's the logistics of it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and I think we've, probably, people may not be aware, like, we discuss this quite a bit. We talk about this a lot, and typically, we don't talk about it in this public forum. So, you know, I think just to let them know that, you know, maybe what you see here at a formal board meeting is not the 100% of our discussion. But going to that point of, you know, we value face-to-face instruction, I think, you know, we aren't dealing with we still have health-related, but not as many and as dire of a health situation. We shifted into that attendance piece to say, you know, it's one thing to have all the kids in the building. It's quite another thing to have certified staff who are certified in the subject areas instructing them. It's quite another thing when half of the class is gone. It's quite another thing when building administration and teachers are logistically having to deal with 4 different lists of students. So, I mean, I think if we stay true to, and we all, regardless of our avenues to get there, agreed on the final place being kids in school as opposed to NTI, that to me, you know, and to Ann's point, saying, yes, I mean, no one likes masks, but we know we're going to, some mask, different levels will be very much more effective, but we're going to stay away and not be as in close contact. So does that then affect that we're going to have those numbers go down, that we're going to have more certified staff members to instruct students, we're going to have more students in school? And I mean, to me, that kind of seems like obviously the decision to make. And I agree we disagree about the science behind the mask. But I do think we've got to try everything we can to maintain a quality educational experience for students and for staff members as well.
I agree with Ann and what Julie has said. First and foremost, in school. I heard from so many of the students in my neighborhood how much they did not like NTI. I prefer not to do that. So I'm kind of where I was at the beginning of the year in August, when, you know, basically it was for quarantining and helping out with quarantine. Now, is that ideal? No, it's not ideal. But we are in a pandemic. But then again, I mean, we're still living with the 1918 pandemic called influenza. And we go through this every year. And I know 4 times when my children were in school, the health department closed our schools for a few days because of our high flu cases. And so, I mean, for them not to do that now, I think things are a little different because it's more widespread. It's throughout the whole, actually the whole world instead of just our little bubble. So eventually we're going to have to learn to live with in the future. I'm saying not just like right now, 5, 10 years down the road, 30, 40 years down the road. But I can see that part. However, we need to have the kids in school, and if this is the way that we do it for a short time, I certainly wouldn't want it to go to the end of the year. Jamie, what would something like that look like if, would it be similar to how our protocol was at the beginning of the year with determining, what am I trying to say? How will we know, besides our daily numbers? Are we going to go with our daily numbers? We don't want to go like and say, okay, we're going to give 4 weeks. I would prefer to go on our daily numbers. Are we going to have like a number that we're okay with?
I would propose that.
Okay.
I'm not coming to you tonight with a number.
No, I know that. I'm just in my thoughts.
We're hoping that we're at the peak of our spike or our
Okay.
surge, whatever we're saying. We don't know that yet, but if we are on the decline and we recognize cases go down, we certainly are going to have that conversation. We are not in a place to have this be a permanent accessory.
Okay, all right. Then that would be my thoughts on it, is that we, until we get better numbers, and we certainly want students and teachers and staff, everybody to be doing their jobs in the school and educating our students, because that's our job. That's our business, is educating the students. So for this short period, I'm okay with that.
I think if we're surmising that cloth masks are going to eliminate the need for NTI possibly, or closing the schools or whatever, I personally feel like it's an unrealistic expectation.
Well, I understand that with the cloth mask now, we can get N95s. I know some of my neighbors and that, they're kind of going to that, and they're getting them online. I don't know how good they are. I don't know if they have to be certified. I don't know anything about the N95 masks. So, but I understand your point, Brad. I understand the whole, we've talked
I
about
wish
this
that
for
were the
many-
case, believe me, and I'd say, hey, let's mask up
Yeah.
immediately. But I just
But I
don't see
also,
that
to
happening.
the counter to that is like a matter of, we also don't know, maybe in our given situation, I think it goes back to the whole, we want to feel like we've tried everything, because
Do
the
we not
last
feel like we have
resort
tried
is the last
masking?
resort.
Do we not feel like we've exhausted that? I think if
Well,
masking,
it
if
was,
masking,
we
I
were,
mean, if the masking really works, we wouldn't have this, right?
well, we're.
This isn't going to go well if we have
Yeah.
audience
Yeah.
participation.
I want to say a couple things.
Yeah.
We get the emails, and so you all think this is political, and you think that we're only going with the people that scream at us the loudest or call us the worst names, and that's where we are. So our children are losing, and so when on social media, people are posting the letters and celebrating that we have a case in the middle school to each other, to me, it is incredibly sad, because we want this to be gone. We want our kids to be in school. We want our kids not to have masks. We want teachers to be able to pick up speech problems with first graders that aren't masked. That's what our goal is. So please do not clap. This is incredibly sad to me. It's incredibly sad. Whatever decision we make, we are not making it because I like your child better than others, or you haven't called me a name and someone else has. This literally is, I'm trying to keep kids in school. So please kind of honor that. I'd appreciate
And I
that for this meeting.
100% agree with that.
Yes, please.
100%. That's all we care about.
Yeah.
Well, what Brad said about masks, I think we've seen that over the last couple weeks. I think the media has picked it up, going off stations. You wouldn't necessarily think you'd see it, but CNN's doctor called them a decoration. And, I think that it's coming, people are coming to the realization that N95 seems to be the way to stop this one. It doesn't seem, masks don't seem to be working. And if you look at the other school districts, and there was a wide variety of districts, both in Kentucky, this general area, pretty much across the states, everybody tried something different. Some masked, some didn't mask. Everybody is seeing the same numbers. If you pull the percentages from each district, what everybody's doing, they're seeing the same problems. But we've got a problem. So you can't ignore it because of that. I don't think they're working, but I also agree with Brian. One of the things that we've done, and I don't think we pushed off our responsibility, but we tried to do was give Brian and the leadership staff here the ability to make decisions on the fly, as needed, on a regular basis. It's nice we have a board meeting tonight to talk about it. Normally we don't meet for another month. But I agree, we've got to give the leadership staffs the ability to do something. Do I think it's going to work? I don't know. It's a possibility. It's a possibility that we're at the top and it will come down on its own. Based on what we're seeing in other districts, I don't know that it'll work. But I am not going to go to NTI with the ability to try something that we didn't do. and I talk to Brian all the time, which is probably way too much. And we talk daily for the last couple weeks. And, this board knows what's going on, is very aware of the situation. I also receive your letters on both sides. And I read them all. It doesn't, I appreciate your comments, but I don't care about your politics. It doesn't push me one way or the other. I only want to do what's best for this school and keep us in school. And we have a problem in that too many teachers are out. That is basically the problem right now. Too many teachers are out. I don't know that they're going to work to put masks on for a period of time. But when we talk today, my thinking is that if we go do this, we do it. We limit it to school and maybe not necessarily after-school activities. I don't know that you can control that. And it needs to stay limited. And by limited, I mean we're not going to wait until we get to green. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think it makes any sense, which means that probably if you believe the charts that you're seeing out of the other coasts from New York and San Francisco, where they've hit their peaks and they're on their way back down, will be soon. And I see us, if you believe those charts, then we're probably a couple weeks out. I don't know. But I'd like to see us reevaluate on a weekly basis if we go do this to remove I think it needs to be a family choice. I fully agree that, but I'm also willing to give you the ability to make decisions to keep us out of NTI.
And I'll say it again. I woke up this morning fully expecting to talk through our criteria. I think it's the responsibility of the Board of Education to talk about what are the guiding principles and guardrails that our team needs to live under in order to accomplish those expectations. And to talk through our three big areas, and then to hear your feedback so that I can lead a team to respond to get that best approach. I didn't come here actually or wake up this morning thinking I was going to have a recommendation that would vary from where we were last December, because I believe strongly in all three of them. A couple things happened as we looked at the data for the day, and I see teacher absences go from 20 to 31 in one day. As I see, when we were looking at 41075 data back in the fall, we were hoping to get to 25 to go from red to orange. It was 330 today, plus, and it was 260 something on Friday. That trajectory, in order to be able to have in-person instruction, was not looking promising to me. And so, with all due respect to student absences, I shouldn't say this publicly and recorded, it's not as weighed on my mind as much in order to be able to provide an instructional program for our students. It has been a factor, but I can tell you our teachers are pros and they can adapt even with high absences of students. In terms of temporary, couldn't agree more. My mantra from day one, our mantra from day one, is we have to provide actual choice for families, and when we have full vaccination, and the data is compelling, that students are not at super high risk when they're fully vaccinated. They haven't been at super high risk compared to other portions of our population from the start. At the same time, if they don't have teachers, then it's not working out. And so, some people say, well, this is our new regular, and it's not going to be our new regular. It can't be our new regular. Our students can't continue to have to experience it, and some are impacted more than others. So I'll hear the social emotional impact and the impact on each individual kid. And someone to argue with me about we don't have studies or we don't have numbers to know this. you know what? It matters to the individual child. It matters to the family to be able to make some of those decisions. And so I am committed as soon as the search did. I hope people see that, that we returned with a commitment to all three principles with equal value. And that won't be popular in this room with everybody. It won't be popular in this room for a whole variety of reasons. I can list all of the criticisms on both sides of this issue and boast them up. But I can tell you, I am committed to this not being our new regular. We're not gonna function this way.
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to add, and I meant to mention it when I mentioned the mask, is that you know, I think you're seeing the media pick it up now that the cloth masks aren't doing a lot. You're seeing spread everywhere, unless the N95 mask is involved. And some of the letters that we get, you know, there's families that have compromised individuals. They're concerned about, you know, getting it. And let me just say that if you are, the school environment is a tough one. And if you are, you need to get an N95 mask. It's one reason that we've ordered them for teachers. We have some in now, and we've ordered more. And we want to make sure that the teachers are covered. If you are concerned, please get one. If you can't get one, reach out to us. It seems that that's really the only one I've seen that is actually protecting you. And based on the data, there's not a lot of mask studies, amazingly, after a couple years, but some of the mask studies that have come out the last couple weeks, N95 is providing hours of protection no matter what anybody else is doing. So if you're depending on the cloth mask, I'm not your doctor, I'm not a scientist, but everything that I have seen in the last week says they don't work.
And also, it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us because we're very aware the 20 people, were they 20 teachers the first day of school? That wasn't school related. That was, I mean, we get letters. People left the country. They went to, and these are people asking for masks. You know, they start off with, you know, I went to Mexico. I left the country. I went to my grandparents and we had a party of 25. I went to Michigan. I mean, people are living their lives. And so it's frustrating to me when I get those letters that say, we're living our life out here, but protect us when we come back to school. And that's very frustrating. And so we're very aware that we could bubble wrap every child when they're in our building, but when they leave our building and they're going to grandma's house and their friend's house and they're all that, and that's fine that you all have made that decision because it is choice. It is choice. It's frustrating then in our building for people to say to us, please protect us. So I mean, for this to work, I mean, we have to live it. We have to walk the walk and live it at home too. Washing hands, you know, staying away from children, keeping children at home when they're sick. I mean, for this to go away, we aren't your magic bullet. We really aren't. And so we need help from the community as well. We really do. And we're at a weird situation, you know. Everybody is very hyper partisan, and we understand that, but I want to keep your kids in our buildings, you know. So.
Well, and I would say there's people certainly tonight that came to speak one way or the other that will be surprised by our discussion tonight based on others. And I would just say, give us a little grace. It's been a rough week. Our goal is to keep the schools open. I don't want to go remote. I don't think it's a great option. Give us some time. Let's figure it out. If you want to come yell at us at the next meeting, that's fine. But give us a little bit of grace on this one. I don't have an answer. I don't think any school district has an answer. If somebody's been to the future to see how this works out, I'd love to hear it.
I would also ask that you give our superintendent some grace as well. He's been working countless hours diligently through the weekends. The man is terribly compassionate and passionate about his job, and it's taken a toll on him.
And I also want you to know that when we did a search, we were very adamant about people that applied, unless they came from a state that was mandated to close, we wanted to interview people who had kept schools open, okay? And that was totally, you know, our vision for this. And so he is carrying out what we want to happen, keep our kids in school. don't be an asterisk year. Our kids just got their pre-ACT scores back. We still expect the 8th graders to score just as well, you know? And so we're trying the hardest we can. So I asked to give us grace as well, so.
Give me a date if you need a date. Give me a number if you want a number. But let our team know, and whatever we have to demonstrate commitment to being fully back into the parent arena.
Well, I mean, I trust this leadership team, and I mean, we can come up with a number. I know the way we want to have parental choice in this, and kids' choice, however you want to say it. So I don't know that a number works because I don't know if I would have made up a number of 300 going the other way. But I would like you to review it on a weekly basis, maybe on a Friday or whatever, and just say, how's it trending? How's it looking? How are teachers doing in the building? Is it, it's not just the absences, or how are they handling the kids that are out, and the testing and the quarantining and all of that? What levels can we do test to stay, and just monitor that on a weekly basis. I mean, again, based on the trends, you don't expect this to last a long time. But, like everything, I think everything is a little bit new as we've gone along. In the last board meeting, seemed very like a bright light, and it's not so bright today.
Yeah.
So that would be, I don't need a number. I trust that when the time is right, we will do it, and what I think is the right thing.
I'm that too. And I would ask the parents here, especially the ones that are really anti-mask and for choice, please help us. This is a couple weeks. So when you go home and you talk to your children, try to talk them through about how this is going to be, because they're going to walk into our building and we're going to ask them to wear a mask for a little bit. And it's really counterproductive if teachers have to fight with them all the time, or if you're saying awful things about teachers we're just trying to do the best we can to keep them in. So if you could give the teachers some grace as well. They've been taking some hits as well through this whole thing. So, and they're scared,
Well, and I will acknowledge that this isn't just like anywhere else in the world. This isn't 100%. All of the faculty think this is a great idea, probably. There's not necessarily unity all the way across the board. I fought with myself on it all day because it's not. I'm not certain that it will be preventative. I just can't make a future recommendation and not throw everything at it that we can. In order to be able to say that we did the things that we knew that we could do in order to meet that first priority. And so that being said, to Ann's point, if we have a controlled environment all during the day and then 3 o'clock hits and then people go live their lives, which happens, we may not see any change, or it could be controlled all over the place, and there's some problems with cloth masking in this strain. So all of those could be true. But our team will work toward that. Our plan would be, tomorrow's not a day where people are going to show up and get yelled at around masking. That's not fair to anybody, and to put any of our teachers in classrooms in that environment. I would encourage maximum use, but we'll work on what our revisions look like throughout the day and message it accordingly.
And I want to thank Jamie and Bill too, because when you went to school, you didn't take COVID 601, and so we've been, on the fly trying to figure this whole thing out for everybody. So I appreciate you all too.
Yeah, and the only other ask I would have is that related to healthy at school and the quarantines and the returning, is take a look at that as fast as we can to adjust down. And, 5 days may not be the right answer, I don't know. But, I know the 10 days from the final kid in the household is tough.
Yeah, I put someone on today that doesn't get out until January 31st.
Yeah.
I got that and
Yeah.
understand 100% what you're saying.
I mean, just if we can come up with solutions, if they're not symptomatic, whatever. Just something to get them back in, because of 3 weeks of school for any kid is not a good idea.
Yes, please.
Do we have the community forum?
We do. All right. Any other questions from you all?
No.
Okay. We are going into the community forum section, and Let me read this. The community forum portion of this meeting of the Board of Education is an opportunity for members of the community to informally address the board about a variety of topics, including issues for future consideration. Since topics raised may not be issues listed and advertised on the public agenda, the community forum is not intended to be a setting for dialogue with the board. Direct questions may be referred to the appropriate district personnel for future response. Answered briefly, if a matter of procedure, or tabled as there might be a future agenda item. Speakers who have registered at the reception area are asked to identify themselves and state their reason for addressing the board. Please address the Board of Education as a whole through the chairperson rather than individual members. I also want to remind that we cannot discuss personnel or specific children. We are all looking at the lens of all children, and I know you come up here and you get upset about things, but this is not that forum for that. Also, we have 25 people that have signed up, so we are going to limit it to 2 minutes. Now, we will give some grace there, but if you could, it's going to be a long time, 50 minutes of just discussing masking and things like that. So if you could, I think Peggy will have the time up here, and if you could keep to that time, we would really, really appreciate it. So, and in advance, I'm going to apologize if I butcher your name, okay? The first one is Sarah Bees, is it Beasy?
Hello,
Hello,
can you hear this?
we can.
So, I'm a parent here in the schools, and it's a little different what I'm saying now compared to the conversation you were just having. But I brought something for each of the members of the board from a professional epidemiologist in this area for over 10 years, addressing the medical, psychological, and ethical conversations regarding COVID. So I'm going to give you a copy of this. And she's presented this to many school boards in Ohio. So some of the things I just wanted to bring up about masking, because I was trying to say thank you to you all for giving families the choice in whether a kid is masked or not, because I think we know their health the best and focusing on immunity and things like that. But I also recognize how you are trying to keep everyone in school. So just a couple of her points that this epidemiologist mentions is that, especially as you're making new decisions here, in the United States, states varied widely regarding masking mandates. States with masking mandates, however, did not report lower overall infection rates. There were 27 cases per 100,000 people, compared to states without masking mandates, 17 cases per 100,000 people. And like I said, there's just many other very interesting facts in here too. Even the year 2020 to 2021, how there was a 35% increase in pediatric visits due to mental health disorders with children because of including depression, suicidal feelings, and anxiety. And psychologists and psychiatrists hypothesize that this increase is not due to COVID per se, rather it is due to the rules of conduct that have been imposed upon children, and that children are mirroring uncontrolled anxiety and fear observed in adults. So I thank you for this time, and I just want to continue to be able to thank you all that these choices should be left up to families, but we are also in support of what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you'll leave, you want to leave the paperwork, that's fine. Thank you for bringing that. He'll hand it out. Thank you. Okay. Noah Gibson. Hello. Hi.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Noah Gibson. I've lived in Fort Thomas my entire life. I have two daughters, one at the high school and one at Moyer. My mom, Jan Majors, was a teacher at Highlands for a long time. And my senior year, probably the only award I got was the math award because she was the teacher. Neither here nor there. So I've thought a lot about what to say tonight. And I was going to give you all my personal opinions about masks and the stats. But instead, I decided not to do that. I believe everybody in here probably already has their own opinion about COVID and masks, and what I really have to say probably won't change your mind either way, which is great. Everyone has the right to their own opinion and choose how, and they have the freedom to choose how they feel. And freedom is something that I always stand up for, which is why I support giving the choice of freedom for masks to the parents.
Thank you, Noah.
Was that your daughter on the news?
That was.
She's a future star, I think.
She was by far the star.
I prefer to think you just got the math gene.
Thank you all.
You're welcome. Chris Swinford?
Thank you for the opportunity. You guys kind of blew all my paperwork out with water, so that's good.
Okay.
I heard a couple things. One, the focus on cloth masks, and I totally agree. I have heard that medical masks may be helpful as well. I've not done my own research, so medical masks and N95s may be something to consider when looking at policy. Something I heard was the unfortunate teacher absences, but also you're not as concerned about student absences. The parents obviously are, right? So looking at the numbers from the COVID dashboard, and I realize these are like a trailing indicator, but on January 3rd, less than 1% of the total student population was absent due to COVID case protocols or quarantine protocols. January 10th, that number was greater than 9% for every school except for Highlands, or the high school. And then Highlands was, overall it was greater than 8% of the student population was out either due to COVID case or quarantine. So those are obviously drastic numbers. So those numbers concern me. The statement that really caught my ear was there's no silver bullet, and I totally agree. Like, defense in depth is something that we've probably heard recently. Isolating, quarantining, masking, whatever other responses we can have. These are recommended by the CDC, by other health authorities, and really they are experts in their field. Like, we have business people, we have educators here. I don't know that we have people doing research or looking into peer-reviewed research, right? So my ask of leadership here is please consider following the recommendations and guidance of the CDC and other state health organizations.
Thank you.
If I can provide one clarifying point. When I said I'm not concerned about student absences, there are all kinds of faculty in here that said that is not true. It's really around, can we continue to do school in person? It compares in a different way, is all I would say. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Joan Ferris?
Hi. Consider this a bit of a palate cleanser, I suppose. It was on August 28, 1963, that Dr. Martin Luther King led so many Americans up the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and recited his life-defining "I Have a Dream" speech. It was a Wednesday, which seemed to be just another Wednesday. But to the world, by the end of that Wednesday, Dr. King had changed the future for all of us with these words: "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." Yes, Dr. King had a dream and a hope that we would all be judged by the content of our character above everything else. Next Monday, January 17th, 1 week from today, is Martin Luther King Day. It is my expectation that every child in America has already heard Dr. King's words. It is my hope that detractors of Dr. King, opponents of Dr. King's dreams, and worse, those who simply believe that Martin Luther King was just plain wrong, be minimized as they attempt to reintroduce racial and social segregation into our lives. Segregation that, in large part, had been eliminated, or in the very least, greatly diminished since August of 1963. Schools, corporations, front offices, senior management, social gatherings, and most every club now reflect all races and nationalities, both genders, and every religion. I ask that any ideology, regardless of what those leading the charge are calling it, not be allowed to creep any more deeply into our schools. The curriculum that was removed at the high school site-based council was simply tabled. I hope that racial segregation is not allowed to be reborn or cultivated further in our schools. If you've tabled it in the past, please don't enable it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Shutker?
Thank you. You did pretty well.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay.
Just came this evening to reiterate my support for masking in schools. I think it's effective. I think it's worth a shot. While I appreciate choice, I would hope that above all we put safety first, whatever that looks like. We've got different protocol outside of COVID and those safety measures, and you're absolutely right. You can't control things once they leave the school doors, but just want to, say that I think masking is worth a shot. There's a lot to be learned with this. This is not an easy time for any one of us, and I fully agree that keeping our children in school should be a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Evans?
Good evening. My name is Jim Evans. I came here to offer my thoughts on mask mandates. I worked for 30 years across the street up in the ER, St. Luke, Fort Thomas, and Florence, and finished my career 3 years ago working in Fleming County. At the time I retired 3 years ago, I didn't think I would be taking my silks back off the shelf and treating people for COVID-19 now to keep them out of the hospital with early treatment protocols. Over the course of the 40 years I was in emergency medicine, multiple treatment modalities were recommended by academic experts in my field of emergency medicine. In the medical journals, there would be lively debate over controversial recommendations. From time to time, what seemed to be unanimous endorsements of therapies, both new ones being proposed or existing, they might be retracted or revised. We're seeing the same thing today as pertains to many of the recommendations being handed down by multiple three-letter agencies. I'm not categorically saying that mask recommendations or any recommendation is wrong. There are experts in various fields who can debate those points. But indeed, that's precisely the point. There is an entire body of publications and data supporting no masks. Who is right? I don't know. No one does. Since the science, as everyone likes to say, is far from settled on this issue, it seems reasonable to allow, in this case, the parents to decide what they think is best for their child. If a parent believes that masks work, then they certainly should choose to have their child wear a mask and rest comfortably knowing they're protected. The rationale being that the mask protects the child. It either does protect the child or it doesn't. It can't be both. Conversely, if a parent believes their child will perform best at school, physically feel better during the day, perhaps forego health illnesses, there are papers that support that. It seems reasonable to allow these parents to decide and act on what they think is best for their child. COVID-19 is an infectious disease just like strep, mono, flu, and many other infections. Children can die from those infections. COVID is definitely more contagious than the aforementioned infections, but that being said, it has an extremely low case fatality rate in children. Regardless of which decision is made by a child's parents, we need not be afraid. Most children have been blessed with incredible immune systems designed to ward off all kinds of infectious assaults. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie Hugg? Hello.
I'm here tonight, obviously in support of masking in the schools, and I just kind of want to I wasn't really prepared because I wanted to give my time to someone else, but I'm not sure if I can do that or if I can just go ahead and speak, okay? Because Brian, I've sent you several emails and you know how I feel about it, but I feel like these, you know, decisions need to be data-driven. I think you need to be informed by healthcare professionals. I've asked several times, and I don't feel like that's happening. I'd like to know what your decisions are based on. Are they based on CDC guidance? Are they Kentucky Health Department? Personal opinion? Parents' wishes? I mean, where do we go after this? If we do math again, for me, that's great. But how do we go forward with making decisions, informed decisions, so we all can agree on it? That's some, you know, it's that, and I think Jamie said she's going to get some numbers together, so I think that's, you know, going to be effective. But, you know, I would like to have informed, data-driven, evidence-based. You know, I'm a registered nurse, soon I'll be a nurse practitioner, and I do believe that the mask works. So that's, can I give the rest of my time to someone else?
We're going to have about 50 minutes of open forum here
Yeah.
today. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Jade Stanford?
I just kind of wanted to bring to the point about the cloth masks not working, but I also wanted to take it a step further and talk about how by having and requiring our kids to continue masking, we are in turn weakening their immune systems. And due to a weakened immune system, then there is a domino effect of our kids then to catch many more infectious illnesses, causing their absences. I know just for speaking about my kids alone, mine were out 3, I had 1 out, or I guess all 3 out for 1 day, and then 2 of them were out another 2 days. And one was because our vacation did run a day over, and so they were not out because they were sick then, but I did have 2 that contracted strep. And I think that this is for a number of reasons, and one of those is highly due to the fact that we are forcing our kids to mask, and that had that negative impact. So I just wanted to encourage that we continue to allow our kids to have that choice, because I would like to see my own kids build back up their immune system so that we can fight off all that comes their way, especially at this point, since COVID is one that affects the elderly more and is more severe for that elderly population, and it does not have the severe effects on the younger population. I would also encourage you to look at your preschool, because if I am correct, I thought that the preschool did not have to mask last year, and I'm kind of unsure about that, but I know that they are having to mask this year, and all of the other districts that I've worked in so far, they have not been requiring any of their preschoolers to mask, and those are some kiddos that are in there because of the intervention need. So that's just kind of another layered piece about the masking and really enabling our kids to have that choice so that their needs can be met and so that our kids can be stronger and healthier when combating these other illnesses.
Thank you. Okay, the next 2 are, is it Heindel? Audrey and Jennifer, do you all want to come together or after each other? Thank you.
Hello, I'm a 9th grade student at Highlands, and before I talk, I would like to say that I've done my research and I've looked at multiple websites and other vital sources. The scientific data clearly shows that the positivity rates are increasing and are much higher than when the district opted to go NTI in the fall of winter of 2020. I'm here to request that Superintendent Robinson reinstate the mask mandate. In school today, we watched a video that you made from before Thanksgiving outlining your 3 primary factors and deciding to go mask optional. You stated that those factors were the positivity rate in the zip code 41075, the number of active positive cases for those attending our school, and the access to vaccinations. The local rates of infection have become more manageable. You stated that the local rates of infection had become more manageable. That may have been true at the time, but is no longer true. With one glance at the district COVID dashboard, you can see that it is no longer true. We ended today with 139 COVID active cases and 120 in quarantine. That's 250 either with COVID or in quarantine because of exposure. Masking can make us safer. And I know I've spoken to many other students about this, and they all feel that masking would help them become more safe at school, and many of them don't feel safe at school. And teachers have always been saying that before even thinking about education, it's their job to make sure that students feel safe at school. And I think this is something that can help other students be able to feel safe at school, which will help meet that requirement that teachers say that they need to make the students feel safe.
Thank you.
So that's my daughter, Audrey. We also have 2 other children in the district, another high school student, and then a first grader at Johnson. I want to say thank you, Superintendent and Board, for even taking up this topic tonight and considering changing course on masking when presented with such compelling data. I can speak for my daughter, Audrey, when I say that she does feel unsafe in her school environment, to the point that the night before school was supposed to start back, she was so worried and anxious, she threw up. She was so scared and worried. The school environment did no longer feel safe to her in an unmasked situation. So I would just consider asking the board to please take up this recommendation and do it on a basis that will be supported by data, not by feelings or a subjective choice, that you are looking at numbers and trends and considering the safety of the staff and the students that you're here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Tran, is it Trutha? I really butchered that.
Thank you. Yes,
You're welcome.
my name is Trajan Mario Struzza, and I'm a parent of 2 kids that attend Johnston Elementary. I'm also a professor of computer science at Northern Kentucky University. The topic today is COVID-19 mitigation measures. First, I would like to thank Mr. Brian Robinson and his team for the change made Friday with respect to isolation and quarantine protocol. I'm in general an optimistic person, and I try to make, being a computer scientist, a personal prediction about how this pandemic will go on. And I wrote this down in March 2020. Now, at that time, I would have been shocked to hear that 800,000 Americans will be dead due to COVID-19 by the beginning of 2022. But, you know, unfortunately, as this anecdotal quote says, one death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. We became used to ignore the high number of preventable daily COVID-19 deaths as long as it does not affect us directly. As computer scientists, we use in cybersecurity the principle of defense in depth, in which multiple layers of security are placed in an IT system. In a pandemic, and I should say even to prevent a pandemic, the same principle applies. Luckily, today is not 2020, and we have so many things we can do: vaccines, testing, isolations, antiviral medication, masking in crowd areas, 6 feet social distancing, and so forth. To fully eliminate this pandemic is definitely difficult, and it involves lockdowns, and we won't do this anymore, of course. However, to have a reasonable level of security or to flatten the curve, we should use the tools that are cheap and according to most medical sources work. To summarize, I would like to make 2 suggestions to the board. First, please consider making the mask required again until the number of infections drops significantly. Second, and due to the time I will not make any arguments, plan for the new normal. COVID-19 may not disappear ever. Flu or other viruses may also create problems if left to spread unchecked. Predefined mitigation plans for such occurrences are very helpful, considering that an early decision is very important and will reduce the peak heights. And just to finish on a positive note, one wartime leader once jokingly said, "The secret to good health is drink, smoke, and above all, no exercise." We need to be careful whose advice we listen to. Thank you, and I wish you all a great 2022 year.
Thank you. Harrison Schultz.
Hello, school board and Mr. Robinson. My name is Harrison Schultz, and I'm an 8th grader at Highlands. I enjoy going to school at Highlands, I really do, and I like this community, but when it comes to this pandemic, we have failed when it comes to preparation. We have failed our community and we've failed ourselves. I don't understand why the mask mandate was dropped. Masks help keep the wearer's germs inside, so the mask is only truly effective if everyone wears it. And when I go to school each morning, in my first period to my 6th period, almost no one does. And I just don't know how long it will take for people to treat this pandemic seriously, or how many people have to be exposed or infected before people treat this pandemic with the amount of caution it requires. There are students and children who are being exposed every day. Just a few days ago, I got multiple notifications that I had been exposed to COVID. My peers and my friends, they're being infected, and still some people just stand idly by and treat this as a minor inconvenience and not an awful disaster that it truly is. I went remote my entire 7th grade year to be as safe as possible, and I feel like I've just been thrown right back into the fire, and it's even worse with the mask mandate drop. I understand that I'm just a kid, but us kids, we're the ones that go through this horror every day. So if you can take one thing away from the past couple weeks, let it be this. We've failed to stay safe once. Don't let the same mistake continue to happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Harrison. Susan Hubin.
I wanted to start off by saying the last 2 years have been horrible, and I do thank you guys for trying, doing the distancing, doing the cleaning. I know it's been rough. My daughter-in-law is a 2nd grade teacher at another school, and they run into the situation where, due to the absences, many teachers are giving up their planning periods. The gym teacher, the principal, the custodian, everyone's jumping in, trying to take care of classes for them. And it sounds like you guys are looking at the numbers and you're making an adjustment, and thank you for that. Thank you for bringing masks back. I have compromised individuals in my home, which is why I'm here. Sorry, I'm nervous. Please continue to look at the numbers and please make adjustments. I think it's important that we just throw everything we can at this, and that we work to keep our kids safe and in the classroom, but also have their teacher teach them and not have the principal come in, trying to make do. It's not going to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Whitney McKay.
Is it okay if I approach and give you guys some handouts?
Sure. Thank you.
I'm not gonna give my speech that I practiced today, and the reason for that is because it doesn't sound like it's needed. And because it's 7 minutes long, and you don't need to hear from me for that long. What I do want to say is thank you, because one of the mantras I try to live by is that it's always okay to change your mind when faced with new evidence. I also know it's very hard to change your mind, especially when you have publicly gone on record to, to promise choice to our community. I'm not going to go over the handouts either. I do want you to read them when you have time. I felt like I did a really good job of quantifying how difficult it is for a child to be on quarantine, and I want you to have that information, but I don't know that it's going to suit everyone else. The last thing I really want to say is I want to thank everybody here, but I really want to thank Brian Robinson, because it's really hard to disagree with your boss, but it's also really hard to disagree in a way that is profoundly respectful. And I think everybody sitting at this table tonight, even though I don't agree with everything that you said, you modeled that for our community, and I believe that you did that, Brian. And I thank you for that, because I think we need to do more of that. That's what I try to do in my job and at my home, and I'm not always successful, but that's it. I was gonna ask you to do exactly what I think you may be doing next, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Dixon?
Thanks for the opportunity to come tonight. I want to speak quickly because I think there's a lot to be said here. First, I do want to say this is not the meeting that I think any of us expected, regardless of your position. I will say I'm deeply disappointed. We are very much making a decision right now that we have data from the experts that say we are going to mandate something that we are showing does not work. There is data, proven data from the director of the CDC that says cloth masks do nothing. Do nothing. Let me tell you what they do to me. Let me tell you what they do to my daughter. I have gone from not using an inhaler at all before the mask to using it up to 10 times a day as I work in schools, day in, day out, pushing through all of these changes. My daughter has gone from not being able to attend, or to not being able to attend practices because of breathing issues caused by the mask that do nothing according to the health experts. I will tell you this, other things that I've been disappointed in tonight, you are telling me life will go on normally, and you are right. Those teachers, those staff members, of which I am one, who came back within the first few days and were positive not because of school, but because life went on. And guess what? Life is gonna continue to go on normally outside of school, and it should. We cannot. No, I will fight for my kids, and I am sorry, but this is big.
It is big.
And I'm not using any disrespectful words, but I'm going to. It is a heated argument.
We will take a break.
Okay.
If you continue to yell.
I will lower my voice.
Thank you.
We have continued to make decisions based on data that has been proven time and time again to be wrong. We're sitting here saying, and yet we're making the same decision. California, New York, several countries have been in deep vax mandates, mask mandates, and yet their numbers are the highest ever. The experts are all agreeing that this is going to spike and be over with, and it's probably the best thing. Experts are saying this is signaling the end of the pandemic. This is a good thing that this is happening because it's milder and it is getting out to more people, which signals the end of the pandemic. I want to end by saying some things that I've heard. So I've been respectful every day when I do my job. People are entitled to their opinions, and I will absolutely listen to them, wholeheartedly listen with all my heart. I have listened to either myself or this has been said to my kids. These kids, I told my spouse, these kids were going to make me sick this week because they don't have masks. Do you think that adult is treating those kids the same? No. We've created a two-class society. You guys are choosing to participate in that. It is uncalled for, and it is not okay. And I will not continue to be silent. I will stand for my kids. I have listened to my child come home from school crying because a teacher told them that they were going to kill them by not wearing a mask. That same person goes out and does life normal. But my kid's gonna be the one that kills him? It's uncalled for. These kids, well, guess what? They're my kids too. I care for them. I have done all the schedule changes. I have put up and will continue to, because that's what I signed up for. And these kids are worth it. These kids are worth everything that we have. And I will continue to fight for them. And I will continue to show up and be there for them. And I will continue to treat each one of them with respect and kindness, because that's what they deserve, regardless of where they stand, regardless of if they have a mask or don't have a mask. This is the start of something that we're never going to be able to come back from. When's the end? You said you trust him. I trust him too. He's a leader. But you have to be given parameters. We said, this actually came up in my building today. Why can't we just do 2 weeks? Because it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve. We're on our year 3. When is it going to end? The experts that you guys want to trust, that everybody's saying listen to, are saying you have to go on. Learn to live with it. These masks are not effective. Lastly, I want to end with a quote from an article on N95s, the N95s that you were talking about in replace of the cloth masks that are not effective. Note, the FDA says N95 masks are not designed to be used by children or people with significant facial hair. One of the main benefits of N95 mask is its ability to secure a tight seal around the face. The FDA says a child's face or a face with a beard will not allow the mask to offer the same protection. So even that isn't going to do what you think. You're making decisions based on, well, you got to do something. This is not the something. It's not. And there are tons of schools that have been in person without masks, and statistics show they're doing the same as everybody else. The same. You're making a decision because you feel like you have to do something. You don't. You don't.
Thank you. Toby Varlin.
First, I'll ask if you don't mind, pass these around. Those are letters from each of my kids in the district who didn't want to come and speak tonight because they're scared to be in this room, which I know some people are going to laugh at, some people are going to think it's ridiculous, but one from each kid, 2 kids, there's multiple copies of each letter. You guys, I know you're tired of hearing from me. I can respect that. I'm not going to go over all the information that I sent you guys in a letter, which I hope you can realize I spent a lot of time on, and one thing I made sure that I did is I cited data. One thing that I would ask is that we consider the fact that these decisions that we have are not just about our zip code and the kids in this school. I know that has to be a primary concern, but if I'm not mistaken, everybody up here received a letter from the CEO of St. Elizabeth Hospital begging you to continue masking in schools. And I would ask our 40-year medical career guy, what happens in a hospital when hospitals are full? What happens to the standard of care when hospitals are full? And it shouldn't take that. We can all read about it in the news. There was an article in the Atlantic today that made the point that if you have a variant that is 5 times more transmissible, but only 25% as severe, or only requires 25% as many hospitalizations, what happens? It's 25% more hospitalizations on the back of a Delta variant that hospitals already haven't recovered from, that was on the back of a surge in COVID-19 that area hospitals didn't recover from. You know, I've asked you guys very specifically to respect public health experts because they have the expertise to consider all sides of this argument. Frankly, one of the big groups I share Mr. Robinson's concern with teachers. Teachers deserve better than to be thrown into a petri dish every day when they are under contract with their livelihoods on the line. You know, I agree, cloth masks are far from perfect. If what we need to do is mandate KN95 masks, which are designed to be a little more kid-friendly than N95 masks, may not be quite as effective, but it's better than a cloth mask. You know, I sat in a room with you, Brian, on December 21st or 22nd, and a healthcare professional told you that this surge was coming. Said there was going to be a post-holiday surge, and that Omicron was more transmissible. and you didn't follow the science and you eliminated safety precautions. So with all due respect to what I'm hearing up here, you may be working hard, but I don't have a lot of respect for the way you've gone about this decision. Prioritizing a sense of normalcy in the midst of a very non-normal pandemic doesn't have the same weight, in my opinion, or the opinion of a whole lot of other people, as keeping kids healthy. You can't send home an email with any credibility as our middle school principal, and I don't mean this as a criticism of her, did on Friday in HMS Happenings, and say our number one priority is keeping as many kids in school as possible, when you made the decision 2 weeks before, against medical advice, to eliminate masking. There's just no credibility there. The last thing I'll say is this district has put a lot of effort into developing their Portrait of a Graduate program over the last couple of years, and talking about the values that it wants to instill in kids coming out of this district. The decision-making that I've seen through this mask mandate, elimination of universal masking, seems to go against just about every single one of those principles. But one of the big ones that I want to highlight here tonight is we're asking kids to become empathetic collaborators. I don't know how we can tell kids we want that and then tell hospitals, hey, I know you're begging us because you're at capacity. I know you're begging us to not mask, but no, you can't make me do it. So if a teacher puts that kind of guilt on a student that you're going to kill me, fire that teacher. That's absolutely inappropriate. There's no excuse for that. But it is not a stretch to say that eliminating safety precautions when hospitals are saying, and every public health agency is saying, please continue to do this because every little bit helps, is irresponsible and it's negligent and it should cost people jobs.
Thank you. Neil Leishak.
Hello. First, I appreciate the change of format. Doing the update first was a good move. It gave us information. I hope you guys continue to do it in that direction going forward. I think it would really make sense. I hear your frustration about parents and students getting sick over the holidays, and a lot of this wasn't on the schools, that they're, we had the early cases, but we stood here in December and said this was going to happen. I handed you a printout of seasonal trends from last year and the direction things were going that didn't even take into account the Omicron. And that printout, it showed, Power BI predicted 19% just based off of the way that their trends go post-holiday. We're almost 30% daily cases, okay? It's way higher. According to your own dashboard, we are rising 247% in the last 9 days, okay? It's bad. You knew it was gonna be bad. So I respect you, and I know that this is not easy to make these decisions. I know you have a lot of people screaming on both sides, myself included. But you knew this was coming, okay? I want to ask a quick question. Do you know how many students in the school district are vaccinated, fully vaccinated? Is that a number we know? Based on the Campbell County data, all right, about 50% of children in the 12 to 17 group, it's less than that for under 12, are vaccinated. Kentucky today, the governor put out something that said about 67% was vaccinated one dose. I don't have a lot of time. Let's just say that we are doing better than the entire state and we've got 80% vaccinated in this school district. That still leaves you with around 600 unvaccinated students, okay? So if you want to talk numbers and logistics, all right, can you in good faith say that you're taking every reasonable precaution to provide every student in Fort Thomas with a safe learning environment? You cannot if you're not putting these masks on. All right, Omicron is infecting children who are also fully vaccinated. The isolation, not to mention the potential hospitalization that occurs for an infected student and the siblings that are forced to quarantine, can be traumatizing for those kids. I understand masks are uncomfortable and for some, poor for their health, but it can be equally bad to put these kids through COVID-19, if not much, much worse. Can you, in good faith, say that you're taking every reasonable precaution to protect the well-being of children and their siblings? Really, I'm tired of sharing facts because I have to be honest, after the dismissive responses to the facts that we tried to give you last month and the other lack of response that we've gotten from this overall board, we've just lost all trust that you guys are really taking empirical data into consideration with making these decisions. I'm happy to hear that you're changing this. So quickly, to wrap up, I would say if you're looking for numbers to evaluate when putting masks back on, use the color red to orange. 25 was the number before. Make 25 the number again. Use the Northern Kentucky Health Department, the Kentucky Department of Health, the CDC recommendations, and follow the recommendations. When we get to an appropriate level, take them off. We're almost there in November. You said it yourself, okay? Get back to that, take them off. But don't do it before that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Leshock?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Leshock. That was my husband, Neil Leshock. I'm going to talk to you today, and I'm going to try to be very quick, but it is a pretty personal topic I want to share, and I want to share it for the insight that I hope I can bring to others who may not have had an experience like this. But on my 26th birthday, long time ago, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. When my husband was 33, he spent a week at University Hospital in a coma with viral meningoencephalitis. These diagnoses came out of the blue. We are otherwise healthy with no underlying conditions, no known risk factors. These two health emergencies were terrifying, and they changed me. I never want to experience anything like that again. I hope none of you, anyone here, has had to experience anything like that, and I hope you never do, but you probably will. If you have experienced something like that, then perhaps you can understand a little bit about what I'm feeling now and what I've been feeling over the past 2 weeks, or I'm sorry, the past 2 years, as I contemplate the possibility of yet another health risk due to COVID-19. Okay? Since May of 2020, over 6,400 children have been diagnosed with MIS-C. That is a life-threatening post-infection complication of COVID-19. The median age for this diagnosis is 9. The majority of children who get this condition are 5 to 13. Very little is known about it, including who's most likely to get it. For all intents and purposes, it too occurs out of the blue, with no association to any underlying conditions or known risks except COVID-19. 50 to 100 children in Kentucky have had this condition. Nationwide, 55 children have died. Every day, I choose to do whatever it takes to ensure that my children, my family, and the rest of this community do not have to experience a family health emergency the way I did in 2006 and 2013. I choose to do whatever it takes to minimize the health risk for anyone so they don't have to experience the tortuous unknown of waiting to see if your family member will recover. This is why I continue to reach out to all of you to ask you to do whatever you can to keep my children and my family safe. And I will continue reaching out until I feel like we have been heard. There is no doubt in my mind that every member of this community would come together to support a family if they experience a COVID-related loss, regardless of their opinions on masking, vaxxing, or the whole pandemic altogether. I know they would come together to support. But if and when that happens, can this board stand by its decisions and say they do not regret their policies to date? As a parent, I believe every decision that I make matters. I will and have made mistakes. okay? But I strive to use my best judgment at all times to make the best decisions I can. In terms of preventing harm and providing opportunities for my family, I am not satisfied leaving anything on the table. My understanding of the current policies of this board to date is that the school board is willing to leave good measures on the table. When considering the inconvenience and distaste for mandatory masking against the risk of the transmission of COVID-19, it appears to me that the school board has determined the inconvenience and the distaste for masking outweighs the risk of physical, real harm to my children and my family. I understand this is purportedly justified by the philosophical endorsement of each parent's right to choose what is best for their own child in terms of wearing a mask. But what choice does this leave for those of us who are committed to ensuring that our families have the best opportunity to avoid contracting COVID-19? What choice have you offered the families of those who want to do everything they can to give their family the best opportunity to avoid sickness, hospitalization, and even miss C? I have pursued this discussion with this board before, and prior to today, the response that I got was providing an alternative option for those who are concerned about the risk of transmission at school is not something we're going to provide at this time. And we do not agree that COVID-19 is that big of a risk. With masking being primarily a source control mechanism, and masking being the most effective when everyone consistently and correctly wears a mask, I feel the board has impeded my ability to make the safest choice for my family. My children are 8 and 12. They happily and comfortably wear masks to school, to gymnastics, to choir, to play practice, and when they're indoor at any group meeting or group setting. They know when they wear their masks, they are protecting others, and to a lesser extent, themselves. They also know when they look into the eyes of their maskless friends, I'm almost finished.
Yes,
Jan.
thank you.
When they look into the eyes of their maskless friends, that their friends' families, some of the teachers, and even the school board did not choose to return the act of wearing a mask to protect them. I am heartbroken over the current COVID protocols and feel the school board will fail our community if you leave reasonable, effective protections on the table. I am urging you, as it sounds like you are willing to do, to take a preventative rather than wait and see approach to the primary physical harm to be caused by this pandemic. Reinstate the universal masking policy. Please provide us with real contact tracing so that we can take the most effective approach to preventing the spread of COVID during this most intense peak, and we can keep as many kids in school as possible.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Hannah, is it Siliox? Hope I'm saying that right. And Tony? Did I say your name correctly? Okay.
Alright. Hi, my name is Hannah Zeliax. I believe the mask should be an option for those who want them. Each parent should be the ones who have a say about their child's future, not the executive on a board that say that they think is best, for they don't know who we are as individuals or personal needs. Our school keeps pushing for the habits that teach us seek first to understand, then to be understood, and win-win. But no one seems to understand that people keep pushing the other side to do what they think is best when it comes to masks. Shouldn't we all get what we want without giving anything we don't? Those who want to stay safe can wear a mask, and those who think that they are unnecessary should not be required. Everyone can have what they want. Isn't that the true meaning of win-win? That those who wear masks are protected no matter if I myself wear a mask or not. In my opinion, masks don't do anything. Masks made my life miserable when I was forced to wear them. I could never go back to masks and still say I'm happy. We should be all happy no matter what. We should just live life. Life goes on. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Ciliax.
Good evening. My name is Tony Ziliox. That was my daughter, Hannah, a fifth grader, Evan Weir. I'm very proud of you, Hannah, and I'm very proud of this community. I can sense the emotion in each and every one of you. I can sense the emotion in this boardroom. I can feel the suffering that we've all been through. I think it's time for us to show a little resiliency now, to move forward. Let's not give up. Let's push forward. I mean, it's time to start living. We've given up enough. We've given up enough of our lives. And I really appreciate each and every one of you that shared your opinions, your ideas, your data. I can see it both ways. We can all find data on each side. But let's just start living. Let's start talking to one another as neighbors. Let's get off the social media, put our phones down. Let's just have conversations. We can be a better community. We can be a better school system, and we can do it together. Good luck, and God bless you all.
Thank you. Okay, is it Anapa? Anupa, I'm sorry. Will you say your last name too? McKim, okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that you guys already considered the mask mandate, reversal of the mask mandate even for a short time. I urge you, I implore you to make the decisions based on science, on data, because the safety of our children is in your hands. So I would really appreciate just not making emotional decisions based on every parent, including me. Please ask the help of public health officials, doctors who know this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. David Kohaki? No? Or did I butcher that name so badly? Brad Deegan? Okay. Kelly Jones? She had to leave, okay. Colleen Thompson? Hi.
My name is Colleen Thompson. This is my first time attending a school board meeting, although my kids have been here for 8 years. So clearly I was passionate about this, and I actually came to support Mr. Robinson in dropping the mask mandate. And I want to say I'm not happy about the possibility of it being reinstated, but I still support what you guys are doing. Just a few quick things about my kiddos that might be a little bit different and might help explain why I'm kind of opposed to a mandate and letting parents choose feels better for me. I have my 2 kids at our Highlands one is an ELL student who's adopted from Ukraine. My daughter Vivian has cerebral palsy. The mask for a kiddo that has speech impediments from CP, the mask mandates for a kiddo who's still doing ELL. I can't overstate how difficult that is for my kids. And as I listen to everybody talk tonight, I feel for people, and I want us to come together as a community, and I really feel like as parents, we should support each other in our decisions to make the best choice for our kids. If the N95s work, why aren't we throwing those on the teachers? If that's the issue, and give them the masks if they want to wear them, and give the teachers the choice. But to take away the parents' choice feels uncomfortable to me, and I want to support kids who want to wear a mask, and for the kids that don't, I would support those parents too. Just like other choices, I feel like we as parents are the ones that make the best decision. I'm struggling tonight to how to go home and tell my kids, you don't have to wear a mask when you go to wheelchair ballet, Vivian. You don't have to wear a mask when you're playing soccer. We can go out to dinner and go to a movie and go to Walmart, and people are masked if they want and not if they want. and I have to tell them, tomorrow morning, you gotta slap your mask back on. I don't know how to rationalize that. I don't know how to make that make sense to them. I will do it if that's what we're told to do and not say anything disparaging, but it is really hard to make that make sense for me and to make it make sense for my kids. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are at the end of the community forum, and so we are going to go into the board for action items. If you all want to, oh, do you want to talk? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, there are a couple.
Okay,
A couple things.
I'm sorry.
And our intention, and I promise people, if there were questions that would come up, the board would have an opportunity. If they wanted to address it, they could. You know, I know I'm going to get emails, and I fully expect them. A couple things that are there. I would ask, the last two speakers really kind of connected with me, and I implore you to think about the idea of unity, and the idea of grace, and the idea of some time and space. I will tell you that our team has got to go to work on making sure our teachers have what they need. So if I'm not as responsive to some of the emails that you might send, I apologize up front. The question was asked about data that's going to be used to make the decision, and this may generate some even more questions. The data that we're using, still what I've heard is the consensus of this board, and I continue to support, is that the parent ability to make a decision around their student's experience matters a lot. And that when we are committed to making that an important part of this decision. And we will return before some people feel comfortable potentially on that. And so it's important to note that this is not a decision that we're making that is intended to last throughout the year. This is a surge decision. This is a decision that we're making based on potentially different data sources than what people would want us to look at. But just because it's not all of the data that everybody agrees on doesn't mean that we're not using data decisions as a group, or at least that'll be the recommendation from our team. So, we do know that that students are protected with KN95 masks. We know that we encourage those who are really concerned about that. We encourage them to take care of themselves. But any of our team decisions will be intended with the spirit by which we talked about it in November, and that this is a temporary one. So that's all I wanted to be able to say.
Okay, anybody else? You good? Okay. This is the end of the community forum, and so we are going to switch into the action items. So anybody that wants to leave, this is not a top 10 rental, so, I totally understand if you left. I would love. Brian. Who? Okay. Action items. Organization of the board. Is that mine?
Yes.
Okay. So the organization of the board is, we've talked about this and agreed that I will stay on and be chairperson, and then Lisa will stay on and be vice chairperson. So is everybody okay with that?
Yes, I think both of you have done an amazing job providing leadership, especially during the last year. It's been difficult. I appreciate the work that you put in. I fully agree and would like to make the motion that Ann Meyer be the chair and Lisa Duckworth be the vice chair for the upcoming year.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed part of that motion, didn't I? Brian Robinson, secretary.
Oh, here we go.
Andy
Remlinger as treasurer.
treasurer. I'll make that motion. How about that?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next is the schedule of the regular board meetings. Do you want, oh, I don't know why this does this, but I'll take that too. The motion, I need approval to hold regular board meetings for 2022 at 6:30 on the second Monday of each month, and hold regular monthly meetings at 8:15 on the Thursday prior to each monthly meeting, with the exceptions identified on the 2022 board meeting dates list. So we have a list that includes those 4 dates that are afternoon 4 o'clock meetings. So may I have a motion? Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Okay, the second is the stipends. And so, as you've heard a couple of times, we all do this for Spiritwear. And so we have, well, you can see we got like it's wonderful Spiritwear, it really is. But we feel very strongly that we donate our stipends for, scholarships for kids and teachers. So my motion is I want the approval to donate stipends for regular monthly meetings into a special fund for targeted purposes to be identified by the board. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for doing that. We're out of, okay. The next thing is for appointment of board committees. So we have an attachment that shows all the board committees, which have stayed the same. I'll continue to feed people, and you all continue to do Title IX and budgets and things like that. So I need a motion, a recommended motion for the approval of the 2022 board committees list. May I have a motion? Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. Johnson replacement? Jerry?
It's a good day, because if I'm correct, this is going to be the last Johnson Elementary replacement report. Because tonight, we're going to start the process of closing out the project. As we reported over the last few months, there were essentially 3 outstanding items that we needed to get finished, or at least a good path toward resolution. And that was a sidewalk that was going to be installed. That was installed on December 30th. We also wanted to make sure that we had addressed the emergency roof overflow drain situation that was depositing a lot of water down into the area of preschool and into preschool. Over winter break, at KLH's expense, Schmidt Plumbing installed a new 6-inch roof drain that diverted that water into gutters on the other side of the building. And our experience to date with rain is that no water's come out of that emergency overflow. We did not get any water into preschool, so we believe we have that situation solved at no expense to us other than our time and investigating. And then the third one is what has been a somewhat persistent situation with a sewer gas odor. And we held a meeting today. Mr. Robinson, Mr. Fennell were at, along with representatives of Morel Construction, KLH, Plumber, I don't know if I'm missing anything, but Joe Hayes was there. And we reviewed the video documentation from the smoke test that was done during winter break. And we know that the interior of the building is good, that the smell was coming into the building through the HVAC system, and we have held discussions today and kind of adopted a multi-step approach that we feel as we do step 1, step 2, step 3, and if necessary, step 4, that we feel like we have good resolution of that, and that at this point, everything that Morel Construction was asked to do along with their plumber, they did 100% to the project documents, and that the current issue really is kind of designed
issue, which is why KLH is going to do a lot of the work to help us get it resolved. So, any questions on that?
Brad,
I'll just
you're
say
the-
that I agree with what Jerry said. It was a
Okay.
very productive meeting today. Great participation from everybody, and I'm comfortable that Morel has completed everything that they were required to do. And I would also, I feel very confident that the particular contractors involved will see the job through and we'll get it taken care of. And I also have a very clear understanding now of what the circumstance is, why it's happening, and we can fix it. But we're gonna do a temporary fix until the spring, or
Yes.
try to anyway, so we'll go from there, but we're in good shape.
Okay, and I appreciate that. You're the building guy, so if you're, watching over it and you feel confident, that's good.
Brad, the builder.
Yeah.
Question is somebody, you mentioned that that is probably HVAC related. And I know there's been internal within the school, the odor issue, but also would that explain the external, like in the
There are
neighborhood as
several factors that go into that, one of which is Johnson Elementary, by way of its construction and its location, is more or less at the top of the sewer in the local area, so a lot of local homes, what is occurring in their homes is it pushes along through the system, is actually venting out through the school. As we did the smoke test, we even had some smoke come out of the vent pipes of some surrounding homes. So we're kind of, it's not just the school, but even some of the surrounding homes that are contributing to this. The steps that we are taking, we believe will resolve not just the inside the school, but the outside the school by use of different filtration systems and such to eliminate the odor.
you had
So,
If we could just get you to stop using your bathroom.
Well, yeah, and I'm also part of the problem, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't say which homes.
One's a West South kid.
Yeah. All right, any other questions? Okay, I need a motion for the approval of final pay application number 32 to Morel Construction in the amount of $78,512 for the Johnson Elementary Replacement Project. I need a motion. So move. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And payment of that final pay application, once it's processed and the check goes and it's recorded in Munis, will allow us to begin the process of BG4s and BG5s over the next couple of meetings that will be the official closeout documents. But we have to do this to be that first step in closing the project out. So.
Thanks for all your hard work on it.
Thanks for that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jerry.
Yeah.
I'm done.
You are. Okay, the next is transportation waiver. So Jamie?
Actually, my next three items are routine as we plan for the 22-23 school year, believe it or not. The first would be our consideration for transportation, and each year we do consider common carriers as transport options for our students, and we do have a process where we do have to file at the state level. So this is a recommendation asking you to allow us this request for a waiver to use charters like Executive.
Okay. So I need an approval to request a waiver for KDE to allow our district board to approve all certified common carriers for the 2021 school year. Is that the right year? No, it should be 21, 22, 23. Okay. Yeah. I know, that's what it is. Wrong, but we're going to fix that. Okay.
So
Yeah.
moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Our next agenda item would be our tuition schedule for the 22-23 school year. And like in past years, we are proposing to you an increase for each of those rates of 4% or more or less, just right around, as we're looking at round numbers and we're looking at the numbers. So an example would be current full day tuition is, we're at $2,750. Current school year for ADA release districts non-ADA 5,500, and we're proposing to go to 2,850 and 5,700. So it's either 100 or 200 in increments for most of the steps. I did continue to keep half-day kindergarten on there as if to have an option if needed. And so as I present this, I also have the calculations for the reductions for our employees. Those follow the same rates at the top, just divided in half, so that they get their discount. And then at the bottom, I do have a consideration, and this is standard that we've done every year, that we have a non-refundable $50 fee when you submit an application for tuition, and that for activities, a $250 non-refundable deposit for those before they attend their first practice or event. And then at the bottom are our current ADA contracted districts for the 22-23 school year.
Is there any change in any of those?
I'm sorry?
Any change in any of the ADA contracted districts?
No. So we're going forward like we have in the past, but at this point, no, we have not heard any changes.
Okay.
I assume we'll approve this tonight, but if something would change out of the state, then I'd like to come back and address this again.
Absolutely. And an example too is that full-day kindergarten is on there too,
Right.
so we'll have that conversation if needed.
Okay, thank you.
It's also important to note that we'll have to revise our out-of-district policies by July 1 as part of last year's legislation, and so that may be adjusted this year as well.
Okay.
So that would be the date, July 1, would be like the drop.
July 1 is the statutory date. Regulations have not been provided at this point.
Okay, so I need a recommended motion for the approval to continue accepting tuition students and to approve the tuition rates that Jamie discussed through here, and that you have the verbiage in your notes as well. So I need a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
My last agenda item would be the 22-23 school year calendar proposal. In December, at our working board meeting, we did discuss that we would be bringing that to the table in January. And with that, we have followed our committee process lined out by KRS, and Ann was a member of that committee.
Mm-hmm.
With that, we came out with two different calendars, very similar with the start, exact same start. Throughout the school year, very similar. What is different would be the end. So I am presenting you two different calendars today. Option B has us ending after Memorial Day by 3 days, having the last 3 days be exams. And you can see it there where the 30th, 31st, and then June 1st, purple being the student last day. With this calendar, there are an additional option for added 3 days in the calendar to break up, specifically adding another day in October to that extended break, adding a day in February, and adding a day in March. So that is exactly what we're doing this current school year. So that is option B. The additional option, option A, no reason or rhyme for the lettering, takes away those 3 days, ends the Friday before Memorial Day, and it was proposed that if this would be a consideration, that graduation would be set after closing day, if A were to be chosen by you. So with that being said, I have to share the committee presented with B as their preference, but could also stand by A as long as graduation would be after that closing day. So there wasn't a huge, strong, definitive lean either way. And I don't know if you want to add more to that. We did build consensus to either.
You know, I'm the May girl all the time because of we get into a race at the end finishing, and you have so much testing and that sort of thing. So I think it was twofold. I think the high school was comfortable. They thought they could get things done with the earlier release. The big hitch became getting out before closing day, which is a deal breaker for me because I know what that does to counselors. So I feel like we need to discuss and make sure if everybody's comfortable. I am not, and I think that everybody was too, because I think they were kind of on the same line as I. Now, I know that one of the elementaries does like having, some more breaks, like in March and that sort of thing. So I do know that they have said that, so. Okay, any other questions about it? Do you have a thought?
What's your favorite?
Yeah.
I think both have some benefits and both have some merit. I don't have a super strong preference. There is some benefit of a lot of teachers start professional development in the first month of June. I have questions as to whether or not parent vacations begin in June. The feedback from the board would matter significantly to me. To me, it's whichever one encourages the best attendance at school. Because neither have significant instructional difference, other than when kids are at school, they tend to do more. So if there's a strong opinion, I think the committee feels like they would be comfortable with that decision. If there's not, I would recommend going with the committee general consensus.
Well, on A, would graduation possibly could be the 28th or 29th? Or would it go until June and you'd have a whole week where we don't know where the kids are?
So that is one thing that we did discuss and that the high school is comfortable with.
Okay.
Whatever calendar is adopted, graduation will never occur before closing day.
Correct.
So it can be adjusted, but I also think we should advertise it once we post it online, what that day is going to be on this calendar.
I know how that is with graduation at the high school level. So.
Did that answer your question, Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure that a lot of people have strong feelings. They like it like around Labor Day, or Memorial Day, I'm sorry. Graduation and stuff, but,
I think in either one, it's probably going to miss Memorial Day.
So we could be into June for both, possibly.
Possibly.
Okay. Graduation. All right, as long as everyone is aware, all the parents.
So to go with what the committee has recommended then?
So that would be the ending after Memorial Day, with student last day the 1st, closing day being the 2nd of June.
Jump in here.
Yeah, I don't have a strong preference. I'm okay going with the committee. As a parent, I probably would choose before Memorial Day, but it's not a deal changer. I mean, I think go with the committee. It's much like the calendar we're in right now.
It is.
And people seem okay with that. I'm okay with that.
It's always cyclical. Just depends on how it lands.
One of these days, I want to start in September, but I've never got that. I never get that. Okay.
Okay, so I need a motion that you want to tell me?
I still have other parts.
Oh, you're doing starting, day starting, yes.
So we'll fall on calendar B, but I do have our day start times and end times, and I'm proposing those not change. Those are the same. What I am excluding from the language today would be preschool. So you're not going to see me adding starts and end times to preschool, or even their start day or end day. We need to collaborate a little bit more to make sure, so I will be bringing that back to you next month. I also want to show that we will have 375 instructional minutes per day, which is what we have now, with 30 minutes for lunch, which will be a 405 calendar day. And if we were to have a half day, I do have start and end times for that. Then also, I am proposing, just as in years past, 6 shortened days so that we have a late arrival. It was a strong commitment by all of our leadership team to make sure that we continue to keep that a priority so that our teachers and our leadership can bond and work together on curriculum and other school-specific ideas. And so those are listed. And I'm asking for 2 shortened days for exams for the high school, 1 for each semester, so that on the very last day of these exams, they could get out an hour early. And that would be comprehensive of my request.
And that's been done. I mean,
Yes.
we've been doing that.
That's
Yes.
standard practice.
Okay, anything else? Okay, I need a recommendation for the approval of 22-23 school calendar, the length of the day at each school, the beginning and ending times for each school, and the shortened exam days at Highlands, and the shortened days for PD at all 5 schools. Do I have a motion?
Did we pick B? Is that what we were saying?
We picked what the calendar.
All right.
Yeah, that's wrapped up.
That's fine.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay. So move second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Okay, now, is it the bill show next?
Show.
Okay. Okay.
So it's just one item, but it's our CDIP. So ultimately, I am requesting that you approve our comprehensive district improvement plan for 21-22. And that includes a couple of different components. So it includes the comprehensive school improvement plan, so one plan for each school, our district-wide plan, what's referred to, it's a diagnostic that's called the professional development plan. So it's not our actual PD plan of how we're going to account for 30 hours next year. This is just a diagnostic plan used for continuous improvement. Our executive summary, and then the superintendent gap assurance. So I'll talk through each one of those. Just as a reminder, this is a very structured way by which we focus on continuous improvement. So we use a lot of methodology. We use varied methodology, I should say, to make continuous improvement efforts throughout the school district. This is one way that's organized in statute. That's very formulaic. And so we utilize a structured approach by which to accomplish goal setting in this format. And so it really is all about long-term goals. And so as a school district, we made a commitment at the district level and at the school level in 2019 that we would be utilizing local data to construct 5-year goals. And so that has retained its structure through my presentation this evening. We will be looking at a new format for comprehensive district and comprehensive school improvement plans next year. That is like intelligence coming from the Kentucky Department of Education, but more detail to come. So we are really functioning with the same structure that we've had for multiple years. Our goals that are written in 5-year increments, and actually I have a slide that talks about this. Let me skip to it. So our goals that are in 5-year trajectories are supported by 1-year objectives. So although we're planning out for the most part through 2024 in each of the areas, we do have goals in all of those areas that are delineated by just this one academic school year, so we can measure that growth and so that we can measure that progress against what our intentions are.
That's progression towards a bigger.
You're correct. It's a trajectory. And so certainly we want to make sure that we are accomplishing progress towards that trajectory. So I'll go backwards. All of our goals are supported by objectives, and then each one of those are executed with strategies and activities. And so the schools and myself, the principals and myself, we worked together in a workshop model to really reconstruct their current CSIPs and CDIPs. And this is an example of what the template looks like. I made reference to the fact that this is very structured through the state, and so every school in every district in Kentucky is utilizing this same structure by which to plan out these continuous improvement efforts. And so what the schools have to do is really think through what are research-based and evidence-based practices that will help to achieve a measure of success that we can look over time and evaluate progress. So here's the most important content, I think, right now. At the elementary and middle school level, there are very specific goals that the schools are responsible for constructing. At the high school, it's the same. And these are actually the same goal types that we have had in place since 2019. And so because we've had very incomplete data sets over the course of the last 2 years, the principals and I, and then they and their school teams, had to really think through, we had to be very creative in considering our current state in order to determine what our desired outcomes were. So we used a triangulation of data. We utilized data from 2019 because that's really what 2019, because that is where we rooted our original goals in. We utilized data from 2021, although it has the COVID asterisk, it is data that our students did contribute to performance-wise. So we wanted to utilize that in compilation. And then we also have other measurements that we utilize internally within the Fort Thomas schools, thinking in terms of progress monitoring data, that we also used to redistribute our objectives for this year, moving towards our same 2024 trajectories. Our schools, and as a district, we did not change what our goals are for 2024. We've kept those. What we did, though, was the increments that we planned for starting in 2019 to get there had to be
be adjusted to be A, realistic, and to be B, attainable. And so we wanted to make sure that we did that. Our schools worked really hard to think through how each one of these goals would be meaningful to their schools as it related to making continuous improvement. One such example is as follows. The growth goal that is required by law for the elementary middle used to be delineated by data we got from our Kentucky State Assessment, or the Kentucky Summative Assessment, because we received for every student a student growth percentile. We saw that as SGP, that was its acronym. Well, we no longer are receiving student growth percentiles from those assessments, but yet we are still required in this academic school year to have a growth goal. So we had to really think through what growth mechanisms we had in place in our schools and across the district to redistribute that effort and still measure students' individual growth, of which we are, of course, and therefore we capture that. At the high school, and the other thing that I'll make note of here, the state requires goals 1 through 4 for elementary, middle school, and goals 1 through 5 for the high school. We have added in that workplace conditions goal to pay homage to our Impact Kentucky survey that we've administered to our teachers, first in 2020 and then again this year in 2021 or 2. And so that's a survey that's administered every 2 years. And so we've written those goals so that we can make progress in those 2-year increments. And so that was a local choice that we made in Fort Thomas. So our goals at the district level and our goals at the school levels are really staying consistent from last year to this year. First of all, that was guidance provided by the Kentucky Department of Education to keep your CSIPs and CDIPs rather consistent. And then number 2, we are on a trajectory already, and we didn't want to really reverse course. We wanted to stay pretty consistent with the mechanisms that we had in place. So for each of the goal types that's involved in our CDIP, there are the same goal types involved in each of our schools' CSIPs. So our CDIP, our District Improvement Plan, is really an overall measurement of all of the individual school plans combined together. And the principals and I actually workshopped all of our goals together to make sure that there was a level of uniformity across the schools and that there was consistency across the levels so that these goals make sense for what we can accomplish. I'll pick out 2 just to sort of bring your attention to a couple important factors. All of us are responsible for having an achievement gap goal. And so you guys are very familiar with that because you are very familiar with the concept of a gap. And so our responsibility is for all students to perform at the highest rate possible. And so what we have is we have student subgroups that are perhaps not performing at the same rate as our all student groups are. So each of our schools and as a district, we have to really examine where can we make the most measurable gains as it relates to those different subgroup determinations. For the majority of us, actually, the district and 4 schools have really chosen students with disabilities. It may fluctuate between reading and math. We chose math for the CDIP because that's where the biggest gap was. But one of our schools actually defaulted to our economically disadvantaged students. That's their particular group that they are targeting. And so that is one of the most important measurements that we have built within our improvement plan. The other is transition readiness. So at the high school level, we have a responsibility to verify that all students are transition ready. We've talked about this in a variety of capacities. That is college readiness, that is career readiness, and that is really focusing on academic benchmarks in combination with student real life experiences that we can encourage them to become as life ready as possible through industry credentialing and opportunities to complete internships and apprenticeships and all those types of adventures. So that is how our CDIP is organized, and that's how our school improvement plans are organized as well. So another piece to the CDIP puzzle is considered a professional development plan. And of course, we absolutely have one, and we have actually multiple. We have one that was more familiar that we talk about in March, and that is the actual outline of our hours, how we want our teachers and schools to focus on actual activities related to PD. This is more about what is a needs assessment, what have we identified as our needs, and what areas have we focused on, are we continuing to focus on, and are committed to further focus on. So you will be very familiar with all of these areas because they're really rather standard in this series of work that we have invested in over the course of the last really 2.5 years. So trauma-informed care certainly stands out. Really thinking through digital learning strategies. That's why there's a lot of investment in the support of our one-on-one programming. And then assessment literacy, because we have focused so much on the COVID gap and what potentially may have been an impact that COVID has had on our academic regime. We have wanted to make sure that we have assessment literacy mechanisms in place to to verify learning. So those are definitely the top priorities embedded within our FTE plan, and that's pretty consistent with what we have identified in our planning for a strategic plan as well. So there's a lot of correlation. As a school district and at the school level, we develop executive summaries. It's essentially a narrative that introduces a stakeholder to our school. And so stakeholder could mean anybody, community, parent, student, teacher who's considering working for us. We talk about a description of our district, what is our purpose, what are the notable achievements and areas of improvement that we've identified. So our executive summary is one that has been in place for multiple years. We continue to refine it and update it with especially those notable achievements. Not so much areas of improvement, but areas that we want to make sure that we accentuate. And we've certainly thrown in our last most notable update, which is our COMNIA District of Distinction. The last piece of the CDIP puzzle is very specific. It is referred to as the superintendent's gap assurance. We very literally must affirm and attest that we don't have a school in our district that has failed to meet its target to reduce a gap group in student achievement for the same group for the last 2 consecutive years. And so hopefully those of you who are veterans to the board will recognize that we've approved 2 superintendent gap assurances in the last 2 years. This is the 3rd one, and I certainly can indicate that you can affirm this because we certainly do not have persisting gap groups that we have not made annual yearly progress or that we have not made significant progress in that particular gap closure. So those are the pieces to the CDIP that, remember, this is phase 3. So I've actually come to you twice before for different phases of the CDIP process. So these are the 5 pieces that I'm asking for your approval tonight so we can carry forward and actually execute the work, or I should say further execute because it's already in place. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to address those.
Looking at data, just because I have an 8th grader who got the pre-ACT scores this last time, do we have the data from last year? Was that a year that we were able to do that with COVID and everything?
We did administer the pre-ACT last year. Actually, last year, the 2021 school year, we did it for the first time at that grade level. Okay. And we did that at the request, actually, of the high school specifically. And then the middle school certainly acknowledged its relevance and importance. So yes, we do have those data. We do have those pieces of data, and we would be able to compare those data sets to determine areas within the academic components where we may have growth and where we also may have some assurance.
Okay, so that is Erica's here. That is something that you're looking at the 2 years of data and following through.
Yeah, when we did a fall testing day in October at both the middle school and at the high school level, we've been able to use all of that data formatively to date, meaning in real time and to be able to actually consider changes in instruction. And so that is definitely how we'll continue to do that.
Okay, good, great. Any other questions? Okay, then I need a motion for the approval of the comprehensive district improvement plan.
I so move. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, grant working budget. Is Andy,
I'm going to give an overview, and we can ask Andy some questions if he's comfortable with that. As you all know, and you're very well aware, we have 3 different cycles of our budget. This is the first one for the next fiscal year. This is our draft working budget. We'll have another one in May that will be way closer to what will be our actual budget, and then we do a final working budget approval in September. When you look at this budget, it makes some assumptions, and there are a few things that I do want to highlight because I think that they're important. One of which is Andy and I conducted some needs assessments with our team. We focused a lot of time with all of the district office staff who had been in communication with school-based staff to look at what are the needs moving forward. We did not increase a significant number of requests for initiatives or so on. We did ask, or we did put into our budget some increases that were what we felt were more realistic with actual cost due to inflation currently. Some costs that we're seeing from actually utilizing some spaces. And so a lot of our expenditures on the operation side are updated to look at our current reality and what we believe to be actual. Within our focus on, as a team, we did have some increase. It has an assumption of a 1% raise for teachers. It has an assumption that we would dedicate a little bit of additional money for some instructional resources as we get into some adoption years. And it does increase some attention to money around some technology upgrades, more on the infrastructure side. So we're looking at needing to pay for switches and wireless access points and a variety of other things to modernize our technology infrastructure. And so we're starting to try to phase some of that in. On the revenue side, we've planned really for rainy day, okay, and which I think is important to do because we look at our current reality. This is our year for property reevaluation, which in some ways people would say would generate additional revenue. The challenge with the way that the SEEK formula is based is that there's a local contribution that decreases the amount of SEEK funding when your local property values go up. And so Andy and I are planning for, the last time we went through this, it was 9%. We are planning, is it 12? So we are planning at 12, which is not as aggressive as it could be, but needs to be more than it was. And so that could be a loss of $550,000 is what we're estimating.
12% overall increase in value.
Yeah.
And you projected 9 3 years ago?
4 years ago, the actual was 9%.
I thought it was over 3 years. 4 years?
It's 4.
Okay. So 9 was the actual 4 years ago?
Yeah, I'll find out February 1st, right after February, what PBS turning in.
Yeah, we better hope it's only 12. Could be more than that.
Yeah. So the other part is, I'm sorry, Richard.
No, go ahead.
So the other part that we're projecting is zero increase in anything that the legislatures would do, so that we're holding steady in terms of the SEEK formula, all of which these are things that could change. But the moral of the story is, with very modest increases in expenditures to represent what we believe is necessary, you would see a deficit on this draft budget. And I'm going to put that in January with assumptions, knowing that our style is not for that to be that in May. And so we'll have to evaluate what does the legislative session look like? What is the reevaluation look like? And then we have to make some decisions between now and what we would present to you in May that are reality there. Now, a couple things. We've got good news over the last couple days. Some of the early preliminary discussions in Frankfurt are a little more generous to education than maybe we had thought. So that's a good thing. We also had some positive news around the SERS evaluation, which will result in a better position for us there. So it's already improving, but as you guys know, it can go the other way as well. We want to present it on this side for future planning, because we have things like budget committees and salary committees and so on.
Right, going back to SEEK, we don't have it in here, but 4 years ago, the state had extra money, and they let us, the decrease was stepped in over 2 years. So that'll happen again, but this budget is conservative, we're not reflecting that.
Does, Andy, does the
Andy, we come up to them, to the microphone.
Come on up. I know you described or Brian described the property tax and how it's not necessarily a benefit to us with that going up. How's the motor vehicle tax work? Is that the same way? If that goes up?
Based on the valuation of the vehicles purchased.
Right.
It's actually good. It will increase as the value of autos increase.
Mm-hmm.
really, this is probably what I have there is light.
Yeah.
But again, that one's pretty hard to predict as well.
Now, is there an adverse effect if that goes up more than what you're predicting?
It would.
Same
It's a
thing?
seek, yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of all-
So it works the same as the other, okay. That's what I was at, because I did see, there was something today that came out that's basically said, you know, much like property values, auto values are going to be much higher than they were in the past, because
Matter of 40%.
Yes.
that was the letter that came out. Now, the legislature could do something about that, and they may, but, yeah, otherwise, the value, yes,
Cars or new cars.
existing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, enjoy that. So yeah, that's something to think about. I saw that today, that I guess the tax office sent something to the PVA offices, and basically like your auto values are gonna be skyrocketing this year, so. Yeah. So, that's why I didn't know if that had the same effect.
I believe it does, yes. It's all part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Andy while he's up? So we do ask for an adoption of the draft budget for us to continue to do our work in the spring.
And I thank you for that, because I know it's, ongoing. So I need a motion for the approval of the draft working budget for 22-23 school year.
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The next is the SFCC offer of assistance. I guess you're going to run that? Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that too. And Andy may have some questions for you on that
Yeah.
one as well,
Yeah.
but we'll see if we get there. Each year, the SFCC provides an offer of, every 2 years, I'm sorry, provides an offer of assistance, and a lot of that is based on what we escrow from our building and capital outlay funds. It requires that we accept that offer of assistance.
It's pretty low because our balances are low in the building funds because of the Johnson project. So over the next few years, the offer should increase.
All of these monies can only be spent on new projects that we would do in the future.
Okay, I need, any other question?
So moved.
Okay. I need a motion. Approval to accept the SFCC offer of assistance in the amount of $6,744 annual debt service. So Jeff so moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, we're going to the discussion items in the Title IX report. Wes had to leave, so we'll table that and talk about that next month. We've already done Healthy at School update, and now any board updates at all? Any committees?
Not me.
I'm guessing Title IX probably, if he's got a report, you've probably
Yeah,
met in
we
the past.
met today.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's same old same. I mean, a lot of the same things. Surveys taken, they got enough students response and exploring opportunities.
Okay. Any other meetings?
I don't think so.
Okay. Brian, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Well, I think in other business, I want to welcome Misty Middleton from Williamstown, who supported me in some of the first year here. I can't thank you enough for being here and being present.
Feel bad for her, she had to.
I know.
Meeting.
I know.
I went and observed a couple meetings that were a meeting over there. It was a little shorter.
Yeah, it's a little shorter.
You got the whole thing tonight, didn't you?
And then also, I just encourage everyone to pay very close attention to the workings of the General Assembly. It matters a tremendous amount to us. There are multiple bills that will be in front of you, and just encourage all of the people at home to try to encourage your representatives to be kind to us moving forward. That's all.
Okay. Then we need to look at the consent agenda. So I need a motion, having that we've had time to read and approve, for the approval of the consent agenda. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anything else? Anything else?
No, I was just going to say, and I sent a note to counselors, but I got to attend WinterCon this weekend, and I would just say that they do, the high school and the counselors and all the staff that puts the work in on that, it's a great opportunity. And I know it just passed, but next year, and they've been doing it for years, you know, if you have the opportunity in high school, I took my freshman, I know she was very excited about it, that I dragged her up there, but I just said, hey, look, there's some colleges there, chance to look at their brochures, and so I know they do a lot of informational seminars as well, so I would highly recommend that. It's a great opportunity that our school gives our students that not every school gets a chance to do. So I just want to thank them for the work that they put in, not only this year, but they do that every year. And so if you're a high schooler, plan to go next year.
Thanks for bringing that up, because they do work really hard. And I'm glad you took your ninth grader, because you start having those conversations. So
She was very open to it.
I know. That's a fun time. I loved college visits with mine, so yeah. So anything else? Okay, then our meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.